He's smart. He was on his way out. And I was going to retweet it and say, amen, brother, let's hope. And I just said, you know what, I'll wait till tomorrow and do something. I was more in a Niner mode last night, and I was happy that my Lions bet covered. But we welcome Damon Bruce to the Krug Show on this Friday afternoon. If you're just tuning in, wasn't planning on going live. Was planning on going to the gym and throwing some weights around for the afternoon. But guess what? I got an afternoon free, and now I'm going to spend it with you and Damon ripping Gabe Kapler. So welcome to the Krug Show, everybody. And Damon, thanks for jumping in, man.
Well, not only have I jumped in, Larry, but I decided to go ahead and stream this as well because
Good
reaction, man. It's on happening on the Plus. I was actually I would have joined you right at the beginning of your broadcast, but I was changing a thumbnail from Kapler done ? To Kapler fired ! Because look, I had a couple people who are, let's just say, within the Giants organization, or certainly within the know. I was told last night that Gabe Kapler was going to be fired on Thursday evening, and I pushed back. No, that's just not the Giants' way. They're not going to let someone go with 3 games left. And we've been talking an awful lot about the decisions you make on the field have been hurting the Giants' reputation. They don't want to hurt themselves with a reputation with managers to possibly go out and hire. So it feels like Kapler's in a lot of trouble, but I'm sure they're going to wait until Monday. And that's kind of the video that I put up because I had a good inside source. I checked another source about that, and he said that feels more like a Monday headline to me, not Gabe Kapler's not fired. He just said that sounds more like a Monday headline to me. So I was just putting up a video, Larry, saying that this was going to happen by Monday, basically for sure. Like, I'm not reporting Gabe Kapler's been fired, but it sounds like all precincts are reporting he's gone. And then sure enough, it has absolutely happened. It is surprising. They can frame this, Larry, as, well, they didn't want him to face the music with the media and have to answer a whole bunch of questions because he knows his fate already. You know what? They're paid to do that. This doesn't happen unless the clubhouse is just like straight up goodbye. Thank you very much. There is without a doubt a feeling of it was over within the clubhouse for Gabe Kapler. And like you heard, that Farhan interview, I mean, read between the lines is all I could hear. That's the interview, Larry, where if he is going to return, he sets up a soft landing for Kapler to return on, and he brings up 1 or 2 things that Gabe does do well. While he's not refuting the report, he's giving Gabe some sort of compliment. The fact that Farhan just said nothing positive about Gabe Kapler, his future, his impression on the clubhouse in any way, shape, or form. There was an awful lot there. And sure enough, not even 24 hours later from that Farhan interview, we learn that he was probably, Larry, let known last night he was out. The ripple effect got to my guy who reached out to me, which made me read back into the organization to hear like, yeah, we're kind of hearing it internally within the ballpark too, but it's just not like us to let a guy go with 3 games left, but they've done it. And it's the first time that they've fired a manager in season since Davenport became Roger Craig, right? Or is it the other way around?
Yes, you're right. 1980, September of 85, Jimmy Davenport, longtime great Giant third baseman and a guy that everybody loved, but was out, really overwhelmed as a manager, was fired at the end of the 85 season. They brought in Roger Craig and Al Rosen. They made a clean sweep. And I guess that's the next question. Does Farhan come back? Farhan, there are people that feel like, Farhan has every bit as much blame in his ledger as Kapler. But I think Farhan's a more likable guy. Farhan also has Patrick Bailey and a rejuvenated farm system that has prospects in the pipeline, making their way to the big leagues. he has done some positive things as far as their overall personnel. But if Kapler, was just carrying out the analytic wishes on a nightly basis of Farhan Zaidi, should Farhan be out as well?
Well, maybe that's the Monday headline, right? I mean, I would think that Farhan, whose contractual status, Larry, is a mystery, right? We don't know. We don't know what his contract says or how long it goes. Am I right on that still?
I believe, I don't know this, but I thought Farhan had one more year in his deal. So that's like the other question. Are you going to have Farhan hire a new manager? Now, I don't know. I don't know the situation with Farhan's contract. I don't know if he was given an extension behind the scenes. I really don't. It does seem bizarre that they would allow Farhan, if he is in a lame duck situation on his own deal, to hire the general manager. I get the sense. Now, tell me what you think of this, Damon. I get the sense that we're going to see a front office restructuring that doesn't fire Farhan, but robs him of any and all power. So I think what you're going to see is a Buster Posey as president, and then a general manager under Buster, and then Farhan in the pipeline still as a think tank behind the scenes guy, but really with no direct power to make trades and signings. I think they're going to have a new face. I'd love it if it was like a Ned Colletti and Buster at the top, with Farhan being like the think tank behind the scenes and a new manager. But I think if you ask me make a prediction or a wager on what's going to happen here, is I think Farhan stays but is robbed of power and loses the final say. I think a guy like Posey. Go ahead.
Let me stop you right there. I want to react to that because I think you're right, and I actually think that that's the right level for Farhan to be at. Farhan is not without merit.
He's smart.
Yeah, he on the edge of the roster, filling out the back end. He's fantastic. He finds value in an awful lot of places. They need more marquee talent, everyday talent that is buoyed by a manager who understands that. I know we're going to talk about managers. Look, Bob Melvin becomes available. I think that's your number one draft pick. I would look at Henry Bam Bam Mullins, and I would also think
that's interesting. He's working now, isn't he, with Colorado? I'm not sure. Detroit? I'm not sure which team, but Bam Bam is somebody's hitting coach right now.
Maybe a link back to the past with Wotus or Mullins, if not Bob Melvin. Outside of that, I'm out of I can directly tie the past to that kind of Dave Righetti. I mean, I don't think Rags is very interested in doing it, though.
Not to manage, but Dave Righetti should be. Dave Righetti's one of the great pitching coaches in Giants history. He should be back in the organization in a position of power. He absolutely should.
Hunter Pence for manager. Look, it would be the total polar opposite of what you got out of Gabe Kapler. And Larry, Gabe Kapler.
What do you think of this name, Damon? What about this one? Mark DeRosa.
Is he going to hurt himself emailing anyone and have to go to the verbal email?
I like Mark DeRosa, though. He's a positive guy.
Yeah.
And he's a good baseball man.
They're definitely going to be looking to add a sense of personality that isn't a negative suck out of the room, which Kapler became. And, here's the thing. If Kapler has 107 wins behind him, his presentation, physical, verbal, mentally, the whole thing washes over very, very well. But when you play in losing baseball, that's when the Kapler becomes annoying and easy to pick on. He was an easy fall guy in this situation. How much of a terrible manager he really was is something I don't know, because, Larry, this is the scary thing now about Farhan remaining. To me, if it were up to me, Damon, you won the San Francisco Giants in the you win a sports team lottery. Are you keeping Kapler? No, I'm getting rid of everyone. I'm starting anew. That's the way I would do it. But if it is Farhan remaining in a role that is not ceremonial, but in power still, how much of Is he hiring the next guy, and is the next guy trying to trot out a whole bunch of openers and platoon everything? Because that to me is the bigger culprit of what is wrong with the Giants. It's not even necessarily the talent that they've acquired, because I thought that they were a little bit better this year than a lot of people gave them credit for being, and the results actually proved. They had a youth movement that if they had just gone to it and stuck with it, I wouldn't have cared about the results at all. I wouldn't have been worried about them. It's the youth movement. You got to give guys time. This whole short rope, long rope, platoon this, bullpen that guy, out of the starting rotation over here, that to me is the problem with the Giants. And if that's Farhan's philosophy, I don't care how good he is at the edge of player development or roster creation. That's the biggest problem with the Giants. It's not just who they're playing with or for, it's how they play baseball. That is a big problem.
To me, it's they, when I thought you had a great video on the Verducci, and I think that Verducci piece, that I'm so glad that both of us did videos breaking it down, because Tom Verducci doesn't do those kinds of pieces.
No.
Tom Verducci, he's not a New York Post back page tabloid guy. He's a very responsible journalist who's on the MLB Network. I'm convinced, Damon, that Tom Verducci was told this was going to happen weeks ago. Otherwise, he doesn't even approach that article. He's not going to go bury the Giants just because of their style. Somebody clued him in. The Giants are on the verge of a clean sweep, and he went and did a deep dive to kind of make the argument for them and to kind of win over the baseball fan who some of them hold him in very high regard. So I think the Giant brand of ball is boring.
Yeah, it's like the call came from inside the house. It's like Verducci, he was told him, give him the code red. And
right.
It felt so out of Verducci's lane of journalism that he knew something, because there were a bunch of assumptions in there that would have him uninvited from the, whatever journalists like to get together and pretend everybody's friends at all time business there is. That's what Verducci is in that business. He doesn't want to rock boats. He wants to shine light on good stories. So it was something coming from him. And again, Larry, this is an amalgamation of tea leaves, right? That's what today is. There was an awful lot of writing on the wall about this. Would Kapler last the weekend was essentially, it's like when you're watching a game and the game's over, the only thing you're waiting for was the final score. Like, that's it. Was Kapler going to survive the weekend or not? Giants history suggested, yes, he would survive the weekend. They made the decision to punch Kapler's ticket the night before they started a series with the Dodgers in the final 3 games of the year, Larry. That's so unlike them. And that's why I want to return to where I do think Kapler deserves a bit of a ripping. Forget about how you and I feel about him. Forget about how the media feels about Gabe Kapler. Forget about how any writer or broadcaster feels about the guy. What's the clubhouse think? If the clubhouse liked Gabe, he would be finishing the regular season. When it was brought up to whatever player gets to hear about this first. I don't even know who that is in the clubhouse. Is it Logan Webb after his diatribe the other night? I don't know. Whatever player in the clubhouse gets to hear about this first, Crawford or whoever it is. And they might have even been asked, weekend, up or down? He gave him the straight up Caesar, you die. Yeah, I mean, there was no one who came for Gabe to save him the replaced before the season ended moniker that this now has become. So
who would you want as the manager? Who would you, and Fish and Chips says drop alike is hard, Damon. I'm not sure.
I think hot, drop it like it's hot or hard. Look at the getting paid in the King's Pound, though. Thank you very much, Fish and Chips. I appreciate that. Look,
FBS is hire Colletti and Wotus. I mean, Wotus is a very good baseball man who was a very successful minor league manager who never was given an opportunity to manage the Giants. And I I think that Sabian could have hired Wotus instead of Bochy, went with Bochy instead. But I think Wotus deserves an opportunity to manage. I don't know if he still wants it.
Look,
but man, if he wants it, he'd be a hard guy not to hire.
I agree with that. Absolutely, I agree with that. If he wants it. I mean, I heard when he was sort of interviewing for the Tampa Bay job that he halfway wanted that one. He was happy sort of where he was. Again, Wotus is a guy who doesn't want the media responsibility that really the he gets to be the manager without dealing with all the bullshit. And that's what Wotus really liked doing. Look, if the Padres say thanks for the memories, Bob Melvin should be the hire. And if Farhan is still
Bob Melvin, the Padres, completely underachieved this year. But you're thinking Melvin, really?
Yeah. I mean, look, that Padres clubhouse obviously is a little weird, right? It's a couple of guys haven't solved that problem for whatever reason. Those players have not aligned. Maybe even Melvin likes Soto likes playing for Melvin, and that's part of the. I don't know. Look, if the Padres are going to say thanks for the memories, Bob Melvin, I would go with Bob Melvin number one. But again, that's
why don't you try to get Bruce Bochy to come back?
Well, Bruce Bochy is going to win the World Series with the Rangers this year. He's not coming back, Larry.
Well, money talks. So he could give him the kind of money. The Giants have a ton of money. A ton of money. Will Martinez is what manager is going to want to manage this team with a lame duck president of baseball ops. If Farhan gets fired, guess what? So does the new manager. That's why I'm saying, Will, I think Farhan is going to be retained, but with a different role. I think you're going to see a restructuring. This team needs a new face. They need a Buster Posey at the top of the masthead. They need a proven general manager, a proven manager. This is not a time for some analytics, 22-year-old. It's time for somebody who's got pelts on the wall. It's time for somebody who's done it before. It can't be. I would say the prerequisite here is this can't be your first rodeo. I don't care how talented you are or how many people like you or what your resume says. If you've never been managed and had success in the big leagues, I think you need not apply.
I would agree with that. So again, I like Melvin.
Melvin's a Bay Area guy. He's an ex-Giant. He went to Cal. He's exceptionally bright. He's got a tie to Farhan. But
what's Joe Madden doing?
Joe Madden would be nice. I like Joe Madden
doing right now. You want to talk?
Joe Madden would be a breath of fresh air.
He'd certainly be a media favorite instantly. But look, I've gone through a World Series as a Cub fan with Joe Madden. That's not exactly smooth sailing. There is, I don't know. I've always liked Joe Madden an awful lot, but his greatest moment came in one magic moment that he almost happened in spite of some of the decisions he made. But look, I like Joe Madden. Maybe, I don't know. This is one of those let the major league wheel turn situations. I don't think they need to rush into this hire. Doesn't need to happen soon. You're going to want to see how this baseball season officially lands. And I know that there is a big call for Buster Posey amongst fans because that's a name everyone likes to say out loud. And normally you could say the word.
He's moving back.
Yeah, he is. But he's not coming back to be the manager of the Giants.
But wait, no. But think about it. Doesn't he already have a piece of the team?
I don't know.
I think he does. And he's not leaving Georgia to come back to the Bay Area for anything short of team president. I think the same way the Marlins made Jeter the team president, it didn't necessarily work, but I think Buster's the PR move. I think Buster as president is the PR move. I think the ideal combo would be FPS says Colletti GM, Posey his assistant. How about Posey as president, Ned as GM, and then let Ned hire a manager? Ned's hired Joe Torre in the past. Would you take Joe Torre?
Yes, I would take Joe Torre. I don't know if Joe Torre wants to come and manage under
Ask him to leave his place in Kapalua.
Well, and in this, there's just a new world of math that I don't know if Joe Torre wants anything to do with. By the way, my guy T from the 203, a Miami board op radio producer who is down with the Plus, says, Joe Madden, I said it first in the chat. He wants credit, and he dropped a super on us, Larry. So I thought we'd
I'll get to him. I'm gonna get to him here. Let me go. We got Nick Jace's Logan Webb buried Kapler, Webb the assassin. That was the other thing that happened the other night. I was on Dan Coach Emilio's YouTube channel, and we're playing this cut. He's like, "Listen to Logan Webb." We played it, and I'm like, "Wait a second, did I hear what that correctly? Play that again." And then he played it again. I'm like, "Wait a second, play that again." Yeah. And he played it again, and I heard him say, "We need major changes so that to our culture so that we can win again." That is a statement at the leadership, whether it was culture, Cap's culture, Farhan's culture, or both of their culture. And to me, I mean, this is what led to my whole thing with Baggerly is that's all I heard, and I heard nobody follow up, and all I said was, man, somebody that absolutely demands a GD follow-up.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, I found out that there was a follow-up, and I said, oh, good, I'm glad there was a follow-up. A quote like that demands one. And all of a sudden, now I've got, freaking Baggerly throwing Felipe Alou in 2005 in my grill. And just the lowest of low blows from him, and
it was cheap. It
was super cheap, and it was like, how tired is that, dude? That was 2005. My God, so that just, and then we went at it for a little bit, and he just showed who he is. But I'll say this: there definitely needs to be some regime change, and I think you couldn't have Kapler come back, and you can't have Farhan coming back as the decision maker, but you can have Farhan coming back as a think tank behind the decision maker if the decision maker is okay with it. That's how I feel. Bob Nightingale says Bob Guerin or Ron Washington.
Bob Nightingale. Is it the Bob Nightingale? Nice.
Yeah. You have a Bob Nightingale, but I got to get into character to do it. Larry Wong says, my favorite quote from Larry's rant is Farhan is a nerd.
I love that. Larry's a boy. Look,
where is the one that I've got to get to the bottom of the chat so I can get to the super you were talking about here. My man Jim Mollet says he should have asked to play some, I'm not sure what that says.
Pusoy. I don't know what that is. Here's, God, what were you just?
I was trying to find that you were quoting somebody in the chat. We got this one.
I wanted to go back to what you were saying about Logan Webb.
Yes, please do.
So when he said what he said, it was clear that he wasn't talking about a philosophical culture. He was talking about the dudes around him, either the coaching staff, the development, who's sitting in the video room, whatever, or the players themselves. What I also think he might have been talking about was, we were a halfway decent baseball team in a nondescript year for the National League, no matter how you chalk it up, and you got us AJ Pollock? That's all you did for us?
And clogged the roster so that you couldn't play Elliot Ramos? Way to go.
You went and got a player who had a fork sticking out of his back so large that when AJ Pollock was told, you've been traded to the Giants, there's no way AJ Pollock could have believed that. He must have been like, really? He was having such a bad year, and he doesn't even reach first base in a San Francisco Giants uniform. An on-base percentage of bullets, .000.
And all he ever did as a player was be good against left-handed pitching, and he was hitting like 114 against left-handed pitching.
It made no sense. It literally made the roster worse to add AJ Pollock. It wasn't even a lateral move.
And look what happened since that move, Damon, by the way. Look what happened. Chart the Giants' record from the trade deadline. They sunk like a freaking stone from that point.
On the road.
Oh, they
and on the road is where guys really get talking to each other. It's not at home. When guys are playing home series, they see each other at the ballpark. Hey, how are yous? You know, it's like the sheepdog and the coyote clocking in at the beginning of the Looney Tunes commercial. They go to work, they clock out, and they go home, and they see their families. They just go back to their bed. They play PlayStation 5. Like, they just want to get away from each other because they got to be on top of each other all the time when they're on the road. And that's when I think they started talking, man, they got us AJ Pollock at the trade deadline. That's how much they believe in us. And Larry, that matters. It goes
does.
to a clubhouse.
It totally does.
Matters. So that's where the season got lost. And look at their road record. Look at their road record specifically since the trade deadline. That's where you're going to find the entire season going upside down.
You put out a rant that I did on your channel. I put it out on Twitter as well. Fish and Chips says, did the Larry rant start the ball rolling, DB?
Larry might be solely responsible for this. Let's be completely honest. And he should have a louder voice in all Bay Area official sports decisions. There would be more parades if Larry Krueger were pulling the levers. That's all I'm saying. You know,
well, at least I'm coming from a good place. All people who know me and know what I'm really about know that I'm a lifelong Giants fan with tremendous passion for Giants baseball, and that I'm a true independent voice. And that right when you jumped on, I was just saying that, you know, people would come at me, and sometimes you, in our commentary, and be like, what do you, especially not directed towards you, is more directed towards me. What do you, Larry, have personally against Gabe Kapler? What did he do to you? And it's like, he did nothing to me, except I have a platform where I'm not impacted by Larry Bear or Larry's wishes or the Giants wishes or Gabe Kapler or Farhan Zaidi. So guess what? I'm the one guy who's sitting in front of a microphone who knows what the hell's going on, who's not afraid to say it. And that stands out like a sore thumb. I get it, but it's not a personal thing. I have nothing personal against Gabe Kapler. I just don't like him. And I don't think he's a good manager. And I don't think he was good for the Giants. And then when I went and read the comments that you got to that video and on your channel and on my channel and on Twitter for both things, every time we had said anything about the Giants, you know what kept coming up? A steady drumbeat of, I'm totally with you. I'm turned off by Kapler. I vowed that I'm never going back until he's gone. I think the Giants, Farhan admitted on KNBR that he read all those comments. He admitted it. So the Giants looked at that and said, video? There's only one conclusion. Bye-bye, Cap.
Farhan was talking about our video on KNBR. He read the comment?
That would have been awesome. That would have been awesome if he was quoting. And somebody, by the way, in the chat is asking for, wait a second, where is it? I got to find it here. Wait, somebody's asking for it. They're saying, Larry, can you do your Larry Bear running up? Here we go. Rockin' new era. Larry, can you do a Larry Bear run? Get him off! Get him off! Look, shut him up! God, shut him up! People are canceling. There's my Larry Bear run.
We've been talking so much about the 49ers, Larry, that you had a whole bunch of Giants backed up in you. And I really mean it. Like, I didn't put it out there as a tease. Like, these are the 29 best minutes of Larry's life. They really were. That was an incredible segment. You had not only had you thought it through, but your emotions got the better of you. And I don't even know if that's the thing. Your emotions you weren't wrong about anything. You weren't wrong about anything. And whether anyone likes you or not is irrelevant to the fact that everything that you said came from a place of, you should be able to also see this with your own two eyes if you know what you're looking at. Yeah. And people did. They totally agreed. And you called it out that Giants fans don't get angry. They don't call sports talk radio like they used to when you and I were, on KNBR 15 years ago. And the world was just a different, like, angrier kind of place, right? Not that the world's unangry right now, but it's just, there was the silent protest that you brought up so well. There was just a clear turning away of even being interested in the Giants. And it was not just a
silent
factor.
boycott. It was a silent boycott.
It wasn't just a factor of apathy. It was a rejection of what I'm seeing and what I get when I pay for it. That's what fans here do speak with their wallets, and they have spoken so implicitly to the Giants. And look, I've seen Giants fans show up in bad years. That ballpark is still absolutely 100% on the you got to see it with your own two eyes Major League Ballpark tour. The ballpark draws 50, 60, 70,000 fans a year all by itself. You know what I mean? Like, that's how great of a ballpark that is.
West Coast Wrigley.
And they didn't have a single crowd this year that made me go, wow, that's a big crowd.
It was amazing. Did you see the video that KNBR put out of all the people leaving in the game, in the middle of the game the other night?
No, I didn't.
Oh, it was amazing. They were heading for the exits. I'll say this, too. This is an inside job. And why do I say that? Because Dan Cochimilio was telling me that they went to the season ticket holders and gave them like a September, like you have to decide if you're going to re-up in September. It was like a September re-up. And like, otherwise you were, they were, and it's like, I think they knew that people were lukewarm on the regime at best and had a lot of reservations about any purchases of tickets in 2024. And I think they wanted some internal analytic where they could say, hey guys, we put out a who wants a re-up and 1% of our audience wants to re-up. We have to say goodbye. You know what I mean? I don't think they don't have a Sabian anymore. They don't have somebody who's got the courage of their convictions. So everybody's tied to pie charts and projections. And so since they're tied to pie charts and projections, they made sure that they had a projection that was flat out ugly so that they could do this. So they could justify to anybody who disagreed with this internally, oh, you disagree with this? Here, 0.2% of the people who are season ticket holders when we lost 20. You said it. One of every 4 people who was a Giants fan in 2016 is not back. They're gone. They've lost that was a Verducci. That was in the Verducci piece, right?
Since 2018, they've lost.
2018.
Since 2018, they've lost 26% of their audience in terms of paying customers.
Right.
26%. So more than 1 in 4 Giants fans said, I'm not returning. I mean,
I think that when they put that out there in September, Damon, somebody internally said, hey, we'll put together some information here that will make it impossible for us to do anything going forward with this group. It will give us the license that we need internally to make this all happen. Let me hit the supers and then we'll get back to this. FBS is Colletti, GM, Posy is assistant, Wotus manager. Yes or no? I could go for that. Absolutely. We got this one from Nick J. Logan Webb buried Kapler, Webb the assassin. Okay, we already got to that one. Thank you. The Recovery 716. This makes me excited for Giants baseball again. How many Giants fans agree with the Recovery 716? I bet you a lot. It makes me excited for Giants baseball. So, I'm more apt to watch the game tonight.
It just so happens I've got about another 20 minutes, about a half an hour I can spend with you.
You're going.
I'm going tonight. I got great tickets right by the batter's circle for the visiting dugout, and this is going to be a very interesting night to be in the ballpark just to feel the reaction of the crowd. And if more people are going to walk up, I mean, they probably had a pretty good crowd coming for this one final series of the entire year. It's the Dodgers. Like they were probably looking at a decent crowd. Wouldn't it be amazing if they sold out tonight?
I got a question I want to ask you about the timing on this, but let me just get through these supers.
All right.
Rob Della, 199. Thank you, Rob. Rob Della, again, 199. 199.
There's my boy T from the 203, right
T
there.
from the Joe Madden. I said it first in the chat. There you go.
Great mind.
Sven says Krugs literally manifested this after his epic rant. Well done. Better days ahead. Coach suggestion. Hot take. Ichiro could be a Shohei pull. God, Ichiro's a baseball genius. There we go. Sven Krug's literally okay. Then did he do that twice? Yeah, he did. He did two of them. Sven back to back $5 on this one.
Boom.
Thank you. Doubled up.
Probably accidentally hit the button twice. Poor guy.
No, that's all right. I'll take both fives. Taco Cruiser. Mark Kotze might be available. Players like him. He's a good baseball guy. Tough guy, too. Jim Mole in the house. Krug, I can make you Brock Star, or I can break you, Kapler. That's right. It all happens on the Krug show. I make you or I break you. And then MF says, Larry, I heard Ned say that going to Mike Murphy's ceremony was his favorite moment of the year. He seems like he's fond of the Giants. Colletti Posy 2024. For president? Damon, let me ask you this. Why now, in your mind? Why today? Do you find today, is there any, do you think they were worried about anything Kapler might say or do? Why did they dump him? They could have waited till Monday. Why didn't they, in your mind?
They can talk about sparing him the indignity of facing the media all they want. To me, this is fulfilling the request of a clubhouse that just doesn't want anything left to do with them. They're like, you know what? We might play better against the Dodgers without him here, is the way that this looks to me. I just think that the weird change that he had with Brivia the other night when he took the ball from him on the mound, like, go ahead and tell me that there's nothing there all you want. I've watched enough baseball to know that that's something. I don't know what that is, but that's not an awful lot of respect between a pitcher and a pitching change. There is a physical level of disrespect happening that I can see, and we can all see it too, right? Are we going to pretend it's there or not? There's some people wanting to pretend that, no, there's nothing there. Just a little weird. Like they went in for a bro hug and they would something else happen. No. This isn't one of those like, oh, I was going to shake your hand and then I was going to give you knuckles and then we ended up doing like you pound my extended hand and then it's like too weird. No, that was
the awkward handshake.
Yeah, this was not an awkward handshake. Something was up there. And I just think Kapler, look, at the end for any manager, I think across Major League Baseball, Larry, the last group of people who want the manager fired is the group of people he is around every day. And I think that group of people didn't necessarily want him around another day. This isn't about saving a man. The indignity of facing a slow pitch softball media. This was about making this clubhouse finally, for the first time, maybe all year, acknowledge your general manager hears you, everyone. Farhan didn't hear this team at the trade deadline, didn't get them the help they needed. And they've been asking for a change or something. And this is Farhan finally saying, all right, okay, I hear you. We are going to symbolically sever this to let everyone know that this is a big part of the reason why this didn't work. I also think it takes the heat off of Farhan a little, and he looks in charge, kind of doing this, and there's a little performative to it. Or again, maybe Farhan's got a 3-4 year deal that we don't even know about, and he's safe. He's totally safe, and he's about to go out and make another hire that will do similar tactics but with a different package. And I don't know. To me, the Giants need more than a costume change and attitude change. They need a philosophical change, and they need to start changing that philosophy by signing real, actual, everyday major league players who you then go out and play almost every day, just like Major League Baseball has always been for 140 something plus years. You know what I mean? Like, stop trying to reinvent the wheel. You can get clever. You can have the right guys on your bench to make sure your 6, 7, 8, 9 hitters might have a little bit more backup than being left to flail in a game they haven't played well in. But you should have guys on your team, 1, 2, 3, 4, that are so embedded in 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, I saw in that Verducci piece that they go in and they get swept in Colorado using a different hitter in their 3-hole for all 4 games. That's not a major league lineup. It just isn't. So that's what the Giants need. But your original question, Larry, why now? Because nobody wanted to hear another fucking word out of Gabe Kapler's mouth in that clubhouse is why now, I think, probably more than anything else.
What do you think of these 2 ideas? Nick J says, why today? They want to be relevant. Monday, all we're going to talk about is the Niners Week 4 win over the Cardinals and Warriors Media Day. They were smart, win the news cycle for 2 days in Bay Area sports. Well, are they trying to win the news cycle or stay out of it? This is the other idea. What do you think of this one? Woodpit 420. FP was saying they didn't want him facing negativity during the Crawford celebration. Is that possible? They want him to give Crawford a separate. They want a positive Crawford send off, not people booing Kapler as he's handing out the manager the lineup card.
If a positive Crawford send off was a target that they were shooting at any point in time this year, they wouldn't have signed AJ Pollock at the trade deadline. I don't think that's got anything to do with it.
Rob Della says banners on Embarcadero say Giants baseball, nothing like it. So true. So true. So, well, I'll tell you one thing that shows.
Why do you think? Well, you answer your own question. Why do you think it was this weekend? Or excuse me, not this weekend, but today?
I don't really know other than
it's not them. It's not who they are. It's not who Larry Bear is.
I think they feared. I think they feared Kapler, doing or saying something that would somehow get ugly. I think they feel like he's just emotional enough, just random enough, just narcissistic enough that he might actually do or say something that they would lose control. It's the same reason that when they get rid of people on the radio, you don't have a last show. They
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I could be talking about myself. I could be talking about anybody. You know what I mean? And they don't give you a last show. They don't give you a send-off usually because they're like, oh, wait a second. What if this guy says something and takes the entire radio station's audience with him? MF says, Larry, Tim Kawakami says Farhan's holding a presser today. Okay, maybe that's interesting. Fish and Chips says, what was Kapler's last meal in the dugout? I mean, that's nothing speaks like I'm done, like taking out a fork and a knife and cutting up food in the dugout. And people, and that's not my thing. That goes back to baseball executives. I've heard Sabes and Ned and others rail against managers that openly eating with forks and knives in the dugout. It's like, it's a bad look. It's a bad look. It looks like you're multitasking.
I got to be honest with you. I never saw the forks and knives. If there were actual forks and knives, I'd need to see video of Kapler using that. An apple doesn't really offend me. You want to have an apple? Okay, it's baseball. You have time for an apple. But if you were actually, like if there were a napkin ever tucked into his jersey, then we're going to have to talk about this.
We have one more that I got to get your thoughts on. And it's kind of an interesting one. Distortion Productions. Larry, what was it like, conversely, when you were working at KNBR? Was there pressure from management to kowtow to the Giants organization? Well, that's a great question. I never actually had anybody say to me, hey, man, Larry Bear just called and he said, shut the hell up about that. Never. But it was understood. It was understood that if you got too fatalistic in your approach, if you weren't just like they were bad, but it's like they're bad and they're going to be bad for a while, if you got into that kind of fatalistic approach, that was not good for business because, hey, we're broadcasting all these games. You're telling everybody at 11 o'clock tonight that they're bad and they're going to be bad for a while, and we're saying, hey, tonight, tune in, this guy's pitching against that guy, and it's, so I get that. But I'll say this, the previous management, Tony Salvador, Bob Agnew of KNBR, there was a level of independence that they would rebuff the Giants from impacting the hosts. And that's why Ralph was so damn good. That's why Gary Radnich was so damn good. That's why at times I was so damn good, because we didn't have those guys in our lap saying, what the hell? Because Bob and Tony shielded us a lot of times from that and would push back on the Giants, who would call up and invariably complain, and they'd push back and say, hey, man, you run your business. You got your own issues. We'll run our business. We got ours. Don't tell us. We don't tell you who to put in your lineup. You don't tell us who to put in our lineup. There was a little bit of that. There was a little bit of like, Tony Salvador was not the kind of guy you wanted to push around. But he was a businessman as well. So there was limits. But I think we all understood that there was a relationship there. And like, let's just say this. It was unacceptable to be super negative on the Giants in March, in April. It was totally acceptable to be ripping the Giants to shreds in August and in September.
If they deserved it.
If they deserved it, yeah.
So,
but even if they deserved it, you couldn't rip them in March.
So
because we got too many games coming up. Too many come see it, come listen to it, right?
So
but give me your perspective.
Tony Salvador protected you with a shield up until he didn't, right?
Right.
And then the next host of Sports Phone 680 was yours truly. So I come in when you're out, and
it was a little bit of a different era at that point because of what had happened.
Because it was also it was the catalyst of what happened to you, and then beyond that, it was no Bob Agnew. It was now Lee Hammer, who the Giants could absolutely, you couldn't push around Bob Agnew and Tony Salvador, but the Giants could absolutely bend Lee Hammer's will to what they wanted, and Lee wouldn't fight back because it just wasn't in his nature to do so. And when it started, I knew that I was in a little bit of trouble maybe with the Giants at KNBR when they started having Dave Fleming do like he would host Sports Phone on night of home games. Like they didn't want.
I remember that.
They didn't want me talking about this directionless. I mean, remember, this is pre-good Giants. This is 2005 to 2009 San Francisco level Giants. This is bad.
Pre-Lincecum, the whole World Series core getting assembled. Yeah. These were the dark days.
This was pitchers asking openly, what's the point here? That's when this was. So, because everyone was angry that the team was being sort of held captive by Barry Bonds' home run pursuit. That felt like the goal more than winning baseball games was the goal.
The Ryan Klesko era.
They replaced me with Dave Fleming, and they were like, hey, it's just more nights off a year for you. I'm like, yeah, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to do shows, but okay. If Dave Fleming.
How'd that make you feel, by the way? I never asked you about that.
I was not happy. Dude, I've never nodded. I look at it this way. If the answer is here's a microphone, do you want it? My answer has always been yes. I want the microphone. That's what I do for a living. So I wanted the microphone. They took it for home games, and then eventually it was me on 1050, and I just felt that my real criticism of baseball operations did haunt me in a way that you didn't. And I was also maybe, Larry, here's the thing. You grew up a Giants fan. I did not. So maybe there were some courtesies that you were willing to give the team that as someone who did not grow up rooting for the Giants on his father's knee at Candlestick, I was just a little bit more matter of fact about how not about to win this was than they liked. So I did feel that it was a part of it. And then again, I got people. I had people who told me Gabe Kapler's fired before it happened. I had a guy at SFO told me that Melky Cabrera just got popped with steroids. And I was like, oh, and I went into Lee Hammer's office and I said, I have it on very good authority and I've double checked it with SFO and Airport PD, and Melky Cabrera has been busted with steroids to the point that it was addressed to him. His girlfriend signed for it at his apartment. Do you remember this story?
Yeah.
And I had it a month before the New York Times, and Hammer made me bury it. And he said, if you go on the air with it, you'll lose your job. And I couldn't lose my job at the time, so I just pretended I didn't know, but I knew. And Marty Lurie was actually sitting in that room when it happened. And that's the only time I ever really felt like, all right, I just got a directive about what I can or cannot say on the air. That bothered me a little. And not too long after, I took the job at 95.7 The Game.
Wow. We got somebody in the chat, Damon, who says, Jesus is Bob Melvin hired as new Giants manager. That didn't happen, right?
Huh?
This is Jesus screwing with us, right?
No, Bob Melvin hasn't been fired as manager of the San Diego Padres, so that's not going to happen.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think you're going to see something that somebody said Will Clark. Will Clark, I'll say this. I would want smart, tough, sound, experienced baseball people. But it would be nice to have somebody like Will Clark's fire in the dugout. I find Will to be very refreshingly. He's got a refreshing fire to him. Ryan Vogelsong would be a phenomenal pitching coach. Why? For the same reason: smart, tough, tons of fire, tied to better days. The Giants need multiple things. They need new players, but they need players to consider coming here. Once Tom Verducci painted them as their whole brand as tedious, it was time for new and improved Tide. Right? I mean, the Giants need a new branding. And I think Buster's going to be part of that. I would love it if Will Clark was part of it.
Well,
Will has an autistic child. He lives in Louisiana. I don't know that he wants to be that far away from Trey and his wife and his family. I don't know that Will wants that. I would love Will Clark to be part of this. I would love Vogie to be part of this. The Giants have a lot of great history, and there was no reason for them to be wed to Kapler, and there's really no reason for them to be wed to Farhan as the chief architect. But I think Farhan is the kind of think tank guy and the kind of egoless man that I think they could retain him as a think tank internal guy and have somebody over him and take away his power, and he doesn't have to be fired per se. So even if they gave him a contract extension, they could just keep paying him his contract to be, Farhan, you're our think tank in charge of the amateur draft. You know, I mean, they've done a pretty good job in the amateur draft at times under Farhan. I mean, they got Patrick Bailey. They've had some nice young players coming through the pipeline. So I'm okay if Farhan sticks around, but I'm not okay with Farhan sticking around as the czar of all Giants baseball. No.
Well, and I honestly don't think that there's an awful lot of finger pointing to at this major league coaching staff, which again, I thought got more out of little than a lot of teams would have. I mean, there's a reason why the Giants had to play mix and match baseball, because they didn't have everyday players. So go back to the concept of everyday players, have a little bit more old school, buttressed by a new school approach in other areas. But your new school approach cannot concern your 2, 3, or 4 hole hitter. You want to talk about what do the Giants really need? They need Shohei Ohtani. Nothing short of Shohei Ohtani to get the fans back.
Do you believe that?
Oh yeah. Oh.
But Damon, aren't you fearful of the fact that the Giants would have to pay Shohei Ohtani as the rarest of rare two-way players when they don't know if he's really going to be that two-way player? Doesn't that seem like a massive gamble to have to pay a guy the kind of money that he's going to command when he's not going to pitch next year? Don't you think that's very risky?
If you've got money to donate to Herschel Walker's senatorial campaign, you got money for Shohei Ohtani. That's the Giants' financial woes. Kiss my ass, Larry.
Yeah, like they own their own ballpark.
They're printing money. They are printing money. The entire Mission Rock development, think what every square foot of that son of a bitch is going to be rented for. They can afford 2, 3 Shohei Ohtanis. But the truth is, there's only one of those. And I don't care what the risk is, what the situation might be when he can pitch again, yes or no. Here's what you get. The single most interesting aspect of the game to offer your fans. That's it. There's nothing more interesting in Major League Baseball than Shohei Ohtani. And the Giants need an influx of interesting that is nothing short of the most interesting influx of interesting that they can possibly offer. I don't care if the Giants win or lose again. They need to just be interesting, Larry.
Yeah.
Shohei is the single greatest baseball player to ever live, but for surgeries. And I don't give a shit about the Giants and the money that they spend.
Yeah,
or
I
anything.
forgive me for even bringing in that up. Let me show you. Let me share the screen real quick, and I want to show you this. This is a tweet that I put out the other day, and I said if I own the Giants, this was put out on September 19th, so 10 days ago exactly. I said if I own the San Francisco Giants, my 2024 staff would be filled with men with fire, toughness, and experience. And I have here team president Brian Sabian, but I could even have go with a Buster Posey as the team president. GM, I have Ned Colletti, assistant GM Bill Miller, manager Ron Wotus, and then bench coach Don Mattingly, pitching coach Dave Righetti, bullpen coach Ryan Vogelsong, hitting coach Sean Casey, who's been a hitting coach this year with the Yankees. And the reason I say Sean Casey is he's very positive. He's a very positive person. Third base coach Matt Williams, first base coach Sean Dunston, base running coach Willie McGee, roving minor league instructors Barry Bonds, Will Clark, JT Snow. And then I said I'd also keep Farhan Zaidi in the Giant organization in player development. This is 10 days ago. I could go with this exact group and move Sabes out for Buster and be completely fine with that. But that's what I'm thinking. Give me your thoughts on this? I mean, that would give Wotus the managerial job. It would make Ned the general manager, assistant GM that he's comfortable with. Bill Miller worked for the Giant, obviously was a Giant and worked with Ned in L.A. Posey would be the new face of the franchise as the new president. You get a bench coach in Mattingly, who's a former major league manager. You get a pitching coach who's a proven entity. You get a bullpen coach in Vogelsong that's got tremendous fire. You got a very positive hitting coach, and you've got base coaches that exude respect and toughness. And a great Bay Area baseball man in Willie McGee, who's in the Cardinal organization right now, and maybe a bigger role for guys like Bonds and Clark and Snow in their minors. And you just take Farhan and you say, Farhan, you can stick, but you can stick in the background. What say you, Damon?
So
what do you think?
You just created a list of names and players and people and former.
A lot of yesteryear.
I mean, I know, but I mean, I like every name. So do I like your list? Yeah, I do like your list. Now, I don't know who on that list, number one, would sign up to want the job because It's a big ask. There's some guys on there who might be Dunzo. Don Mattingly might want to be a lot more than just a bench coach. Should he return at some point in time? I just don't know. I feel that the Giants owe it to themselves to look to the past for some lessons that the franchise might have forgotten, but don't be so locked into the rearview mirror that you're not looking ahead at the major league carousel, which is about to spin when the year ends. I don't know enough and haven't been dialed in enough on up and coming managers in the minor leagues or guys who are the heir apparents of about to be's that do have major league clubhouse experience. I have not thought of the next manager of the San Francisco Giants because I didn't think that we were going to really reach event horizon with Gabe Kapler. But the last 72 hours have felt such a seed change, resulting in him being terminated today. This moved, it's funny, Larry, it moved slowly and then it moved very quick. Almost by your Larry Krueger epic rant YouTube video. Like it feels like that was part of the steamroll of the PR disaster that the Giants looked at and said, we can't even keep him for the last series of the weekend. We just got to go. We just got to go ahead and do this. But it was a slow moving, I don't know, you want to call it coup, whatever you want. It was a slow moving. I don't think it's Gabe Kapler. There's a lot of evidence that it's not Gabe Kapler. The players don't like him. What Logan Webb just said can't be ignored. Then the Farhan thing, then boom, just it was over. Just it fell down fast. So it's quite a development. It really is. Again, I want to say Henry Bam Bam Mullins is a guy whose name I'd like to see involved in a list. I think he's got a lot of credibility as a manager,
Great call.
especially in the international player pool. You know, what was he over with the Netherlands before he was? Bam
Bam's very bright. He was a good hitting coach. Yeah, that's an interesting name. Very interesting name.
It's going to be very interesting. And again, if Bob Melvin is let go in San Diego, he would be right at the top of my list. And just knowing, let's say Farhan retains more power than you even wish, Larry. If this is really Farhan's call, you know that Farhan would love to work with Bob Melvin after all of the success that Bob had with, let's call it, this chemistry set in Oakland. You know, if Farhan has been brought in to set up a lab to run the A's Moneyball experiment, he's going to want someone who understands that in some ways, and that would be Bob Melvin.
Yeah, and Melvin's a former Giant, and he's a Cal guy. He's very bright. He's a good leader. You did get the sense, Damon, that what happened in San Diego this year was not really about Bob Melvin.
No.
Because, I mean, I talked to San Diego people early. I mean, we're talking about first week in spring training. I'm down in Arizona, Damon, and I'm down there talking to some San Diego people, and they're like, I'm saying, hey, and I was thinking about, I was hunting around for a baseball over, you know, somebody that I could bet over the season total, and I kind of like the Padres, and I was like, you know, what do you think? Should I wager on the Padres? And a couple Padre people were like, no, don't. I'm like, are you kidding me? You guys got Soto and all these different hitters, and
right, you're loaded.
You're loaded. Why not? No, bad chemistry, bad vibes. Stay away. You know, and these are friends of mine. And man, if I said okay, I'm not going to take them under, but because I think their talent's too good. But I'll stay away from betting them over because sure enough, you guys are telling me stay away, and I stayed away. And smartest move I ever made. They've been awful.
Larry, I'll give you two names who you definitely cannot have. Bruce Bochy and Dusty Baker. Those guys are working elsewhere in Major League Baseball, right? Wouldn't you love either one of those guys back? Bruce Bochy or Dusty Baker? Come on, man.
Yes.
The fact.
But great leaders. They're both great leaders.
Yeah.
I take both those guys like that.
The fact that Bochy is managing in Major League Baseball while the Giants are looking for a manager should not sit well with any Giant fan.
Well, especially since he retired. No, you fired him for Gabe Kapler. Think about that. You fired the Giants, got 3 World Series titles. And you're right, Damon. Bochy's Rangers are going to the World Series this year. I think the Braves will beat them in the World Series. What do you think of a blank check for Boch? You got enough money. It would be, if you wanted to flip a switch, Damon, and change the PR in an instant and make people light the lines with, I'm buying tickets, I'm going. Give Bruce Bochy, who's the highest paid manager in the game? What do they make? Maybe I'll look that up. Would you give?
By the way, I know what the PR slogan should be. You know how they come up with gamers or nothing like it.
Right.
If they really were to bring Bruce Bochy back, the entire season's ad campaign should just be Sanchi.
Get a beer, Traeger. Come on by. We're gonna barbecue on my Traeger.
Yeah. Look, he's not coming back. The Texas Rangers are going to blank check him more than the Giants will. I think the Texas Rangers, at the very least, in the American League Championship Series, Orioles Rangers sounds about right to me when I'm looking at the American League right now.
Can we look at it? Highest paid manager salaries. No, this is old. That's 2018. I got to find the highest paid managers in baseball. It's got to be a list of the highest paid managers somewhere. If anybody's got a list of the highest paid managers in the game, let me know. But I would take whatever the highest paid manager in the game is, and I would give Bruce Bochy more than that guy, and immediately you would have people coming back. They would come back regardless if the team was going to win or not. But the Giants need a new face because the Giants need to attract free agents. And that's why they badly need that new face. Jamela13 says, hey, Kapler, I didn't like the direction of the team. Kneel on this tat hand. God. Here we go. Damon, you got to jump, right? You're going to the game. What time are you jetting? Who you going with? You going with your wife and Jack and the kids?
No, I'm going with a buddy of mine who's invited me, got some great tickets, and he's like, hey, I'm coming into town on Friday, and so I'm going to go and hang out. And man, what a night to go to the ballpark. Just a random night. I mean, I was even telling Jillian, like, God, I committed to go to this, and he's already bought the ticket. I don't even know if I really even want to go. Like, sure, it's Giants, Dodgers, but now all of a sudden, and
now you're excited.
Now I'm excited. Let's go see something different. Giants baseball, Larry. Nothing.
Dave Roberts, 6.5 mil. That's the highest paid guy in the game. Bruce, here's 10. Come on down. What? Don't tell me that the Giants are paying Ross Strip. They're paying Anthony DeSclafani $12.5. They can give Boch $10 million to put butts in the seats.
The whole point, though, is no one's coming to watch a manager lean on a dugout railing. That's the truth, man.
But really they have a good young. I mean, let's be honest about this. The Giants are not in a disaster situation, personnel wise.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Bochy's not coming back. I mean, that ship has sailed. The man's got some dignity attached to it, right? I mean,
for money,
and
you made him the number one guy, highest paid guy by $4 million.
What's the point of being paid all that money if you're not in charge of the decisions? And that is going back to your original question: should Farhan been let go of too? If this is Farhan's show, and really Gabe Kapler is being hung out to dry here a little bit because Kapler's not deciding the platoons or the starting lineup. He is merely a pawn in Mongo's game of life, and Mongo is Farhan, then does it even matter who the manager is? If this is Farhan's operation and we are comfortable going with an opener 4 days in a row because we have two starters on our major league roster, if that's what we're looking at, and it doesn't matter who the manager, then you might as well have kept Kapler. You need players. Go get me Shohei Ohtani and throw a fucking rock into the stadium tonight, and whoever it hits, they're the manager. Get me Shohei Ohtani.
How great would Shohei Ohtani be?
Come on.
How great.
Putting balls, you'd be banging them off the Visa building across from McCovey Cove, for goodness sakes. All right, I got to go. Great to see you, man. Larry.
Good to see you. Hey, maybe we'll talk to you Sunday in the post game, and, of course, Monday morning on the Palmetto Superfoods acai extravaganza 49er wake up, you and I, and I've gotten lots of great response for that show. Maybe we'll get a I don't know, maybe should we go 49er wake up and then 90 minutes into it, get a big time Giants guest? I could do that.
Why the hell not? But here's the thing too. I'm going to rock with you till about 11, and then I'm going to postpone my own show because I'm going to be going to Warriors Media Day on Monday as well.
I was thinking about going to that as well. What time's that?
I don't even know. I got to double check with everything first. I would again. I
was talking to Ray Ritter about that. We're gonna do more Warriors on the channel this year.
Great to see you, brother. Good talking to you.
Enjoy the game.
I will. Look, enjoy the game.
Enjoy the game more.
Good to see you.
Come on, you people here in the Bay Area, you're so stupid to pay these prices. Enjoy the game more.
The game.
That was Jeff Kent.
Look it up, kids.
Yeah, seriously.
Broadway is dark tonight. You want to go through all the major ones right now? All right. Good to see you, Larry.
Later, man. The great Damon Bruce stopping by. on this memorable Friday impromptu live stream that had as many as 700 people in the room. We have 600 plus in the room right now. I've put a link out to Ned Colletti. He is driving, and he said he could join us. I'm not sure if he'll be able to, but I sent him a link, and so if he joins us, it will have to be by cell phone as he's driving, I think, either through the desert or Southern California. But we could have Ned here momentarily talking a little bit about this. Let me hit a couple more chats. This is kind of an interesting one. Kevin the Elder God says, Cole Kuiper put some faces to a tweet. Stephen Vogt would be an interesting name. I love Stephen Vogt as an idea. I absolutely do. I think Stephen Vogt is smart. He's positive. He's fun. He's funny. He's likable. He's genuine. He's several things that Gabe Kapler could never dream of being. And I suggested Stephen Vogt as a name. Excuse me. Probably a year ago, 2 years ago. I said Stephen Vogt would be perfect. So I like that name. FBS says the fans would come back for Bochy. I kind of agree. Now, somebody says Boch has got a 3-year deal. Here we got this one from Skywalker Destroyer 52. I like that handle. He says Bochy signed for 3 years, though. Would they let him out of it? Probably not after the year they've had. Who would be your guy? Who would be your manager if the Giants came to you and said, you know what would be awesome tonight is if when you came into the ballpark, if they handed you a card that you could hand to the ushers with your vote for next year's manager. How cool would that be? Hey, you go to a Giants-Dodger game Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and you let the fans vote. Everybody who walks through the turnstile gets a vote. And just to see what the people who actually go through the turnstiles, who are actually Giants fans, and there'll be a lot of Dodger fans, there'll be a lot of Dodger fans saying, bring Kapler back. You know those are Dodger fans. But seriously, if they handed you a card and you went to a Giants game this weekend, and on the card it said, you can vote for who you want to be the manager of the Giants in the future, who would you vote for? Who would get your vote? Nick J, by the way, says Kai Correa is managing the final 3 games. Good for him. The way Kapler kind of bullied him around and physically, manhandled him a couple times in public. Yeah, I mean, why not? Give that guy a shot. I like Kai Correa. I think Kai Correa is a good man. He's not going to be the future manager, but I think he would be. I like him. I think he's a good baseball person. That would be interesting. Kevin F says, I believe in Stephen Vogt. True Blue for Eva. We believe in Stephen Vogt. Look at this one. S says, Larry Damon, Kapler tanned his nuts. Google it. Thank God he's gone. Oh, man. The Recovery 716 says, Will Clark would be amazing. I'm just a fan, and he makes me want to run through a wall for him. I agree. Erwin Kwong says, Larry, stay hydrated. Larry's staying hydrated. That's right. Let me take a poll. There we go. Yeah, Will Clark would inspire confidence and tie you back to a great era. Posy as the president, Will as the manager. I still think I'd go for a Ned Colletti. Give me an experienced executive that knows how to sign free agents. And let Farhan be in the back behind the scenes as a think tank guy. MF says, Larry, it's cool you get Ned on. He doesn't ask for a ton of attention, but he's a huge reason for the Dodgers' success. Ned Colletti drafted Clayton Kershaw. He drafted Bellinger. He drafted almost all of their core. He made a lot of the moves that have been the reason the Dodgers were on top. He drafted a lot of their best guys. Go look it up. We got this one, Skywalker, Destroyer 52, Matt Williams, Ron Wotus, or Jeff Kent. Jeff Kent doesn't even like baseball. Patrick Sheehan says Deion Sanders, LOL. Could you imagine? Deion coaches, he's the coach for Colorado football, and he's the manager of the San Francisco Giants. 2 sports at one time. This is an interesting name, Rich Aurelia. Does Richie want to do it? Richie's smart. Richie's tough. Richie's a good baseball man. Richie's respectable. I love Rich Aurelia. And there were times where Rich Aurelia didn't love me, and I still loved him. But I'll tell you, when I covered this team and was in the clubhouse every night at the end of games, and in that era where Bonds and Kent would flip you the bird, Bonds would hit 2 home runs. Kent would hit 1. The Giants would win 4-3. Writers would go into the clubhouse looking for a quote. Bonds, no. Kent, no. Who would stand up at his locker and be that stand-up guy who would give the writers what they needed, give the talk show hosts what they needed? Richie. There was a while there where Dusty and Richie were like the faces of the team because the guys who were really producing, Bonds and Kent, were kind of AWOL in the postgame. Ryan says Barry Bonds as manager. Barry's a baseball genius. Would he want to do it? Would he get bored of it? Bruce says bring Mad Bum back as the manager. See, that's at the end of the day, the thing that I keep thinking about, even though I respect Farhan, would a Farhan-led Giant organization, would we have even seen Madison Bumgarner, the way he was utilized in Game 7 of the World Series? I'd say no. I'd say there's no chance that they would have allowed Bumgarner on 2 days rest to come out of the pen and was it the 5th or whatever and go the distance? Or was it the 3rd or something like that? He basically went 6, didn't he? I have to look that up. Maybe 5? I can't believe I've forgotten how many innings he went. Mike says Alyssa Natkin, the manager. Make her the manager. Sac State. Bzz, bzz, stingers up. I'm a Sac State person, so I'm a big Alyssa Natkin fan. We got this one. Must be trouble. I like Bob Guerin. That doesn't excite me. Nick J says, Larry, what would Ralph say about today?
Gabe Kapler's a nice guy, and I told him I'd send him in a meat cheese and, get some of the lemon pepper wings, and I told him the hand tattoo was a bad idea. I told him, you can get tattoos, you just can't get it on your hand. Everybody's going to see it. They're going to talk about it. They're going to make an issue of it, Gabe. I told him over and over. I told Tom.
Oh, there you go. There's my Ralph. I can only do so much Ralph before I have to get another pull of water. Between my Ralph impersonation and my bulky, I got to have water nearby. Otherwise, it just doesn't work for me. Mike S. says Eric Burns. Eric Burns. I mean, smart, tough, tons of energy. I love the way he played the game. I love Eric Burns. I love the way he played. Burnsy was one of my very, very favorite guys. I would love to have Burns on my, I don't know if I want him as the manager, but I would definitely hire him on my staff. Definitely. The more I think about it, the more I like it. I love Eric Burns. Larry Wong says all Larrys are cool. Thank you. Patrick Sheehan, this is a great day. Yes, it is. Fish and Chips says soda completely gone, Larry. I'll mix in a soda every now and then, but yeah, trying to lean out, going with the water. We got this one, Yadi Molina. Danny Cochimilio was saying Yadi Molina. Yadi's a baseball genius. Why not? I like that. Yadi makes sense. Another one, Ryan DiNardo. Eric Burns is awesome. CB says Will Clark. We got this one from Jamie Alizaga. The best we can get is AJ Pollock. Yes. FPS. If anyone can do two sports, it would be Dion. Somebody said Bob Brenly, Ben Bamboo. It will not be Bob Brenly. This is a good name. Molon Laby, or Labe, says Mark DeRosa. I think Mark DeRosa would be a phenomenal candidate. MF. Larry and Brian Murphy should hire the next manager. That would be fun. I'll say this: we could not do we wouldn't do a bad job. Why? Because I've got passion. Murph's got passion. We both care a lot about Giants baseball. We really do. We're not switching. You know, it's like it's not like I'm a Giants guy and now I'm no longer a Giants guy. I was totally disenchanted with the direction under Gabe and the fact that Gabe was the face of the franchise to the point where I didn't go to a single game this year. I did not go to Oracle all year. I went to spring training and I just saw Kapler up close and I'm like, ugh, God, this little man is just so threatened, so worried, so worried about a takeover. Guy was like King Herod. He was like looking for an uprising, trying to stomp out every uprising. Go check your biblical history on that one. I couldn't rock with Kapler. All right, now Ned's chiming in here. He says, "Can we just do microphone?" Yeah, absolutely. Audio only. We'll get Ned's thoughts on this. I think Ned's going to join us, and we'll just go audio only. Let me do this. I also have gone through the Giant, and this was not something I did this minute. This is something that I did this week. I literally have for you my plan, if you can see this, my plan for what I would do roster-wise for this upcoming year. So I'm going to give you, we also have another super here from HR. He says, Larry, most local media hated the Kapler hire from day one. They weren't proven wrong. Farhan was. Yeah. I mean, the covering up of the, was it covering up of domestic violence? Really? That's how the whole thing started? Your manager's covering up domestic violence? Whether he did it with his heart in the right place or not, you're still covering up domestic violence. I mean, that's a rough start right there. I mean, you can say whatever you want about this person said this, that person said that. You hired a guy who was covering up domestic violence in the city of San Francisco, and you thought that was going to fly? My God, that right there. Most people, that would be it. All right, so I'm going to give Ned a call right now. Hold on, just a second. Hang on, guys. I'm gonna do a little mute right here. I've got a little thing I'm going to put up on the screen for you. Hold on. Put that up on the screen for just a second. Take down this comment. I'm going to mute this. I'm going to call Ned right now, and I'm going to get him on here. Hold on. All right, guys, I am back. Let me move this off. We have on the line with us Ned Colletti. Ned, the Giants made a big move today. They decided to move on from Gabe Kapler without me leading you in any direction. Give me your assessment of the happenings and the announcement.
Well, I'm sure it's not an easy day for the Giants or for Farhan. Obviously, it's. There's somebody he's known for a while and somebody I'm sure he respects deeply. So never an easy day. The business is really decided in the standings and how well your team plays and how well they execute and how well they follow follow what you set forth. And, that's it. Generally, sometimes there's more to it. There's typically always more to it than any of us really know. We can speculate, but speculation is just that. So not sure, obviously, what led to this conversation. I know whenever I had to make that type of move, it was because the players had stopped playing for the manager, started to show in their thought process, their lack of execution, things along those lines. Now, that's my decision making. That I'm not saying that's Farhan's or that's what occurred, but always a tough day. There's no doubt, but you have to figure out how to get better, how to get your organization better, and whether or not Gabe, wanted to stay or whatever. I'm not sure what his contract situation was, but there's a lot of factors that go into it. But for me, it always came down to: is the manager getting the most out of the players? Do they play hard? Do they pay attention to detail? When that starts to slip, if you're unprepared, somebody's got to pay that price, and it's tough to get 26 people to pay that price.
Do you think that the Giants, would you say that the Giants underachieved based on their talent, overachieved based on their talent? How would you? It wasn't a very talented roster. It wasn't like Farhan deserves no blame here. It's not, the Giants don't have a really talented roster. There's a lot of platoons. How do you assess blame between, the roster that Gabe was given and the job that he did to get the most out of it?
Well, I'm not sure that the team is capable of winning 90 games the way constituted, or 85 games. They're certainly not the Dodgers. They're not close to the Dodgers right now. And that's the team you got to beat inside the division. So you got to take that into consideration. Could they have won 3 or 4 more games? Yeah, probably. Could they have lost 3 or 4 more games? Yeah, probably. They're probably in and around the talent of the club. And I don't think they underachieved. I don't think they overachieved. I think they probably played to the way that they're constituted. Within means, but I think that's the deal. When you're trying to be 500, you should be figuring out how to get to 500 by the time they get to June 1st.
To me, there was the awkwardness of this was only there. It only made it more awkward when Brian went back to the Yankees and Boch came back and managed the Rangers this year. I think directly or indirectly that dialed up some heat on this regime and made the fans view this regime in a different light. Do you think that's fair?
That's possible. I mean, talking about 2 Hall of Fame, 1 executive and 1 manager. There's not a lot of managers in the Hall of Fame. There's not a lot of executives in the Hall of Fame. And I may be premature in speculating that, but, their records indicate that's where they're going to end up. And, I guess whenever you move people out, and I hadn't really thought about your question before, as you move people out that have had great success, that are not ready to shut it down, maybe needed a break, maybe needed to take a year or 2 and refresh a little bit. You're first off, you're kind of held to that accountability. Who came before you? And then when whatever decisions are made and those people leave for other organizations, that kind of puts the heat on you a little bit. But again, when they win 107 games or whatever that figure was a couple of years ago, nobody thought about saves then or Boch then. But as you struggle to be in and around 500 and people are leaving your organization, and saves will have an impact on the Yankees. Boch has already had an impact on Texas. People ask the question, why'd they leave?
Exactly. I think, and then it also makes you wonder, were they mistreated on the way out, considering what they had accomplished? A guy in the chat, FPS, is saying, Larry, ask Ned about the Giants' goals, as they stated, being only to play meaningful games in the month of September. Isn't that a weak goal? What do you think? I mean, it's the San Francisco Giants, Ned, and you and Brian ran this thing for over, a long period of time. What was the goal? What was the stated goal from the top? Was it who set the goal? Was it Brian? Was it you? Was it the owners? And what should the goal be for a franchise like the San Francisco Giants that has unbelievable wealth. We're talking about the 6th highest revenue team in the sport.
Well, starting in 1997, when Brian became the GM and I became the assistant GM, the goal was to play as deep as you could play, to play in October. That was the first goal. And then to play as deep into October as you possibly could. It's the big leagues. It's not the try-hard league. It's not, it's you're expected to produce to the highest magnitude, not try to get halfway there or 3/4 of the way there. If it was a very, very young team with a lot of high-end prospects that were getting their feet wet and struggling along the way, but you knew that they were going to, through the struggle, get better, which is a lot of times what prospects, really top high-end prospects, end up doing. Then you kind of live with, let's see how long it goes before we get eliminated. But I can't tell you that Sabes and I ever sat there for a long time we were together. Even when I left, my goal was the same. His goal was the same. If you look at the Dodgers and the Giants from 97 on, how many of those either franchise made the playoffs or made the LCS? It was dominant. And that was the mindset. The mindset didn't change. It's why we went to work, why we did what we did. I think if we, after 97, 98, if the goal was to be good and to be entertaining, but hey, if you win, you win. If you lose, you lose. I think we both would have left.
Interesting. Very interesting. Nick J in the chat says, Larry, could you ask Ned, knowing the current state of the Giants, if they reached out, would he entertain a role with the team hypothetically? Where are you in your career?
I don't want to go there. I have great respect for the organization. Was just there, a month ago for Mike Murphy's Hall of Fame induction. It's, I loved it. I love the people there and the coaching staffs that, we worked with and the players. It's great to see everybody. It's my home is Chicago. Okay. And I don't live in Chicago. I lived in Chicago for almost 30 years. But after that, that franchise holds a very esteemed place for me, and hopefully always will. But I don't want to get into any stuff. That's not something I care to discuss, or that's out of my conversation today, Larry.
I hear you. So, but when you say you don't want to go there, you don't mean you wouldn't consider it. You just mean you don't want to talk about it right now.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. Fair enough. That's fair. Ned, what is in a situation like this? You have hired managers. So how does the beginning of that process look? And did you inherit Grady Little and hire Joe Torre?
No, I hired Grady, and then I switched from Grady to Joe after our second year together.
How did those two searches go? I mean, and how does that go? How does that begin?
Well, it happens two different ways. If it happens in the middle of the season, before you move A, you got to have move B. You got to move B. Have that move right there too. You can't do one without the other. You get to the off season, you should have some feel for where you're going, or at least what type of person you're looking for, and have enough scouting done on them, so to speak, that you have a short list. The day that our season ended, my second year in LA, which was the 07 season, and I had a sense that Grady didn't really want to come back. I think the year may have been a lot for all of us. The next morning, I was on a flight to Florida to meet with Joe Girardi. And about a week later, Joe Torre left the Yankees, and I knew Joe Girardi was going to be their main guy. So I called Joe Girardi, who I'd known since he was drafted in the Cub organization when I worked there. And I said, obviously we're talking to you, and we're kind of down the road with you. We'd love to hire you, but with this change in the Yankees, there's a chance that you're going to be the first choice. And he says, well, I've been doing games where I coached, I played, and Joe and I were really tight, and I learned a lot from him. So if there was two choices, I'd probably go to New York. And I said, I appreciate the honesty. And the next day I was talking to Torre, and a couple of days later I went to see him. I talked to him on a Thursday. I went to see him on a Saturday. He happened to be in Las Vegas at a conference, and went and spent the entire day with him before he went off to the dinner for his event. And he flew to LA the next day, met ownership, and a couple of days later he was a Dodger. But I had people in mind. When I knew that I was going to make a change, I had two people in mind immediately, Girardi And then when Girardi had the opportunity to go to the Yankees, I pivoted to Joe Torre in a heartbeat. I knew what I needed. I needed leadership. I needed somebody who could manage young players and veteran players, because the team that the 08 team was a combination of both. And we struggled in 07 because the younger players, the Matt Kemps, the Russell Martins, James Loney's, all these guys, there was a bridge between them and the older guys. And we needed to be able to traverse that bridge. I needed somebody who had leadership, who people would respect, who would hold people accountable, and at the same time get the younger players to play up to their potential. It's still a teaching game. Just because you show up at the big leagues doesn't mean you're completely educated in the game. Players, the best players I know, learn after 25 years. They're still learning something. Greg Maddux learned till his last pitch. Guys like that, Tony Gwynn, same thing. So, it was a teaching gig. It was also let's get this thing to be as good as it can be, whether it's a 23-year-old, a 33-year-old, or somebody in between. So I had a very narrow list, and I also had a iconic brand that I knew there'd be people interested in. So that's where I started, and within a couple of days, within maybe 7 to 10 days, we were where we needed to be.
Was Major League managerial experience a prerequisite in your mind?
It was for that team. It was, it's the Los Angeles Dodgers, not that the Giants or anything less.
Sure.
It's you're talking about, again, I always felt it was tough to experiment in the big leagues. Whether it's a player, whether it's a coach, whether it's a manager, you might have a couple players that are young and are going to have to figure it out on the fly with great leadership around them, and you may have a young coach or two that you need the same. But this isn't a little town, a little team out in the prairie someplace. This is one of the iconic franchises. So, you got to have somebody who's up to that standard and understands it, understands what it means. The definition of a Giant is different than the definition of any other organization anywhere. It's a special breed. Always has been a special breed since I got into the game. When I think back to the Giants and Robbie Thompson and Matt Williams, guys like that. I mean, look how they played. Look how they grinded it out in a nasty ballpark with bad weather. But you always knew going in there, these guys were going to play. These guys were going to give us, and they may be a second division team at that moment in time, but you always knew that they had some grit to them. And I think there's a description someplace of a San Francisco Giant. What does that player look like? And you've got to have somebody that can make that a reality.
What is the fact that they made this move before the end of the season? I don't know. I'm not saying that you have any insight specifically, but generally, does that tell you anything as a man of your experience of what the thinking may have been? Why not wait until Monday morning? Or what's your takeaway when you see that?
This is the things we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know what meetings people have had or things like that. And, maybe Farhan and then Gabe talked a week ago and said, we're going to make a change when the season's over. Why would you wait? Why would you put Gabe through 3 more days of what's going to happen? What's going to happen? You don't want to do that. So, if you're going to do something, especially when it's the end of the season and you don't have to have plan B sitting there immediately, you do what's classy and what's best, especially when you're talking about changing a career and changing a job. Everybody's human and everybody's got that attribute to them. And you can't forget that, whether they're players, whether they're coaches, whether they're executives, whoever it is. Everybody's got a passion for the sport. It's an honor to be associated with the sport. And so you have to understand that this is going to be a change for Gabe and a change for his, what he does. And nobody likes to have that type of conversation. You have to have it, obviously, if you're in leadership. But you have to do what's best. You have to do what's best for the organization. But you also have to keep in mind that you're not talking about robots. You're talking about, a good person and a human being in Gabe.
What do the Giants need, Ned, as far as to be? I mean, I'm sure at this point you have seen the Tom Verducci piece where he describes their regime as tedious but efficient, which is tedious is a terrible word to use in a sport that's really about entertainment. Do you think there's damage done to the brand of San Francisco Giants within the sport when an article like that gets written by a man like Verducci, who's not a hit? He doesn't do hit pieces. It's
No.
he carries quite a bit of credibility.
I think if there is, it's temporary.
Okay.
I think, if you look at the 2024 Giants and they contend with the Dodgers and they're in the playoff hunt, or they got a 5 or 6 game lead with 3 to play, yeah, then people go, oh yeah, you remember the article? I don't even know if anybody even reckoned with it. But I think it depends where it goes. I think it's either going to be the beginning of a conversation that has a lot of life to it, or it's going to be forgotten within a season because things are different and they're not as described. And just because he describes, and I love Tom Verducci, I've known him for decades.
Sure,
great writer, great. I mean, like you say, not a guy that's going after people, hardly ever, if
right.
ever. And that's his opinion as of today. Can that change? That can change in a minute. But he laid it out there. I'm sure he didn't lay it out there haphazardly either.
Couple last moments with Ned Colletti, who's kind enough to give us some of his time. The story of the day, the Giants have parted ways with manager Gabe Kapler with a few games left in his 4th season. He had a 107-win year, which is the franchise record in wins, and then no years beyond that above 500. Ned, do you think the Giants have made this move knowing who their next manager is, or can you make a move like this and feel good about it without maybe even knowing who the next guy is going to be?
Well, I think you either know who it is or you got a short list.
Okay.
You're going to run through. You're probably going to run through also, a lot of people, which also gives you the experience to listen and learn from other people. I know some people that have interviewed 9 or 10 different candidates, just to learn, just to get a better feel for it. But I would guess that they have a pretty good idea of who's available, going to be available, or who they think meets what they're trying to accomplish. I think you've at least got the outline of it. You may not have the specific of the person there, but you've got a feel for it. But again, I'm doing this from my cell phone, not from an office.
No, I hear you, and we do appreciate you jumping in. I'm very fond of Ron Wotus, and I know you know Ronnie well. Yeah. And you guys, there's a lot of bread's been broken there through the years. What can you tell us about Ron? And I mean, he was a very successful minor league manager. I felt like Brian could have gone to him instead of Bochy when he went to Bochy, but he opted for Bruce. Obviously, 3 titles later, nobody would question that. But what do you think of Ron's resume for a position like this at this point in time?
Well, just from the outside, and you're talking about one of my dear friends, I have so much respect for him, and I think he would be an outstanding manager in the right situation. It's got to be a right situation for the other, for the manager as well, not just, hey, I'll take a job, any job. I don't know where that comes out. But he's very well schooled. He went through, he's always learning. He was a type of player that had to pay attention to detail to even play in the big leagues. Okay. So he's not somebody that takes anything for granted. He is attention to detail guy that worked for Dusty, worked for Felipe, worked for Boch, worked for Cap. So, he's watched some of the best in the business do this. He's was an integral part of championship type seasons and really ultra competitive teams that never made it to the Fall Classic. So he's got all that experience. And if you couple that with his approach, where again, like I'm going to go back to the thing I just opened this comment with, he's attention to detail. He knows what he needs to do to have make people successful and go from there. That's how he played. Look at his major league career. You're not talking about 2,000 games, 2,000 hits. Talking about an extra player that played here and there. Those guys had to be ready. And then that he coaches as he did in the minor leagues, works his way up to a big league staff and stays there for however long it's been, 25 years perhaps. And to coach under the managers that he's managed under. He started out with the energy and the hunger to learn as much as he could to be as good as he could. And then he sat with people who could teach him even more than that. So I don't know that there's a better choice. I don't know, but I don't know who else is a choice.
Sure. Last question, and we appreciate you jumping in. You are uniquely positioned to answer this question. And we've been friends for years. And one thing I love about talking to you on the air, whether it be on KNBR, 95.7 The Game, or on this YouTube channel, is you're candid, you're smart, and you've always been very fair-minded. But you also are one of the only guys in the last 30 years that could really speak to the Giants culture and the Dodgers culture. And right now, the Dodgers, if this were a fight, they would stop it. And the Dodgers have owning this division. The Giants are on the outside looking in. Give us your perspective on what the Dodgers do that the Giants don't do, what the Giants need to do first and foremost to start running on the Dodgers level. I mean, you've seen it all, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You've seen the majors, the minors, the development staffs, the scouting departments. You know this like very few people in the world, to be honest. As candid as you can be without I'm not looking for any real sound bite. I'm just looking for your honest assessment. Are the Giants? Is there a way they can get on the Dodgers level? Is it an impossibility? Give me your perspective.
It's not an impossibility, and I'd rather just address what the Dodgers do, because I
Sure.
don't know what I don't live in the other place. The Dodgers have, whether it was my era or Andrew's era, you look at the number of players who were drafted or internationally signed that made an impact. I'll go back to my era. Corey Seager, Clayton Kershaw, Kenley Jansen, Jock Peterson, Cody Bellinger, on and on and on, right? So they were supported and supplanted with free agency, not built around free agency, built around a farm system who knew how to develop players, knew how to draft, sign, and develop players. Okay, that's A. And I'm not saying it. I'm not talking about somebody who doesn't. I'm just talking about what they do.
Right.
And they go out and they trade for Mookie because they have the prospect capital to get Boston interested, at least one-sided deal, in my opinion. And they have the finances to take on what's coming. Okay. Same thing with Freddie. Same exact thing almost. And you look at their team, it's their number one and number two hitter. Both, they finish. Those two players could finish in the top three in the MVP voting. Okay. You look what Corey's doing in Texas. I mean, on and on and on. Kenley, the whole group. So that's A. The second thing is when you watch them play, count how many times, whether it's offensive, at the plate or on the mound, how many pitches in a game do they take off? You may watch weeks of games and never see them take a pitch off. I can't say that about hardly any other team in the game. Guys get tired. Guys take pitches off. Pitchers make foolish pitches. Don't really think about it. No, they've developed a culture there, and whether it was Clayton or Justin Turner or whoever kind of really put it in place and all galvanized around it, they don't ever take a pitch off, in my opinion. I shouldn't say ever, but hardly ever do they take a pitch off. And that's how when you have talent and you've developed the right people and they understand what it means to be in the organization, and you support it with some big free agents or big trades for potential free agents, all-star caliber players, and nobody takes a pitch off. And your hardest working player on that team, the top two guys, and they all work hard, are Mookie and Freddie. Your two best players are your hardest workers. They set the stage. They bring everybody with them, and everybody wants to be a part of it, and so off they go.
Ned, thank you very much for jumping in here. I realize you're in the middle of your day, and I called you last second.
I'm actually going to a wedding in about 15 minutes. So
nice.
Anyway.
Well, wish the bride and groom luck, and I love you, brother. Thank you very much for jumping in, and we'll talk again soon.
Okay, Larry.
There you go, Ned Colletti. Fantastic stuff there, guys. And yes, my arm was getting tired. Yeah, now we have people watching on Damon Bruce's channel still. We have people watching on the Krug Show channel right now. Probably close to 1,000 people in the house right now. And this is a big day for the Giants. They fire Gabe Kapler with one more series to go on the season. Lots of people in the chat saying, Ned, come save us. Texas Niner saying, wow, this is amazing content, Larry. It really has been. Damon gave it up for us. Ned gave us great perspective there. And now we're going to go to Dan Coach Emilio, who is driving around. Danny is a good friend as well. For those of you who don't know, Dan's has NorCal Sports Network. He became a YouTube sensation on the Krug Show. Now such a sensation that he started his own channel. And Danny unbelievably had horrible timing because he had an appointment that he was out and about driving around in Arizona, but he joins us now from the vehicle. Danny, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear. That was Ned Colletti who was just weighing in there, and Damon Bruce weighed in before. Give me your perspective on what happened today.
Well, it's great news in my opinion as a Giants fan and a member reporting on the Giants. Overdue. To me, it's not enough. I hope there's more. Doesn't sound like there'll be more as far as Farhan, since he's one that kind of
Now, Dan, you're kind of bleeding in and out. Is there a way you can pull over, or how far are you away from your studio?
Oh,
you're kind of bleeding in and out. We're only getting like every fourth or fifth word. I can see you all right, and you're a very handsome man, but we're not hearing you consistently. Okay, so Danny had to go. We had to go back. Hopefully, maybe Dan can reconnect. Maybe Dan can get to a better spot. Maybe Dan can get to his studio, and we can continue this dialogue. Guys, give me your perspective. I'm gonna do this. I'm going to put the video call thing in the chat, and we'll take your video calls right now. If you're driving around, you're a Giants fan, or if you're at home and you're a Giants fan and you want to comment on the story of the day, being the Giants have fired Gabe Kapler on the eve of or on the day of the beginning of the final series of the year. The baseball playoffs are around the corner, and the Giants aren't going there. And Kapler's out. I thought Ned gave us some great perspective there. I did ask him the obligatory question: if he were to be asked to be involved in any capacity, would he be? And he just didn't want to go there, and that's fair. That's fair. I mean, it's fair for me to ask the question. It's fair for him to beg off on the question, and that's fine. We've been friends for a long time. That's the way Ned and I operate. I ask him the best questions I can think of, and he either answers them or tells me that he can't answer them or doesn't want to answer them, and we go from there. But if you're a Giants fan and you want to jump in here on the show, I just put the link in the chat. Feel free to click the link, and we'll take your video calls if you want to jump in on Giants baseball. We've got over 500 people in the room right now, and obviously we've been going for over 2 hours, 2 hours and 4 minutes exactly. And I appreciate every single one of you guys for jumping in. Let me hit a couple of supers here. We've got this one from J Mella 13. Donates $1.99 for the Barbieri impression.
I really appreciate it. It's $1.99. I'm going to give it to Amichis. Thank you very much for donating to the show. I really appreciate it. Tom appreciates it. We all appreciate it. We're going to Amichis.
All right, there you go. There's my Barbieri. And I love Ralph. He's no longer with us, but I love him. HR says, Larry, most local media hated the Kapler hiring from day one. They weren't proven wrong. Farhan was. Yeah. A lot of people hated it. Steve Hamilton is in the green room, and he's got the Giants hat on, so I can assume that Steve's a Giants fan. Steve, how are you?
Great, man. Coming to you from Columbia.
Columbia. Nice. Well, Giants. At least you got your Giants hat in Columbia. Probably not a lot of Giants hats in Columbia.
There's a lot of Dodger hats, unfortunately, but they don't know baseball. It's okay.
Well, give us your perspective on the story of the day. Gabe Kapler's out as the Giant manager.
It had to happen. We all know it had to happen. He wasn't a good manager. He never has been. He's mediocre at best. So we were mediocre at best as a team.
Yep.
But I think this is kind of a bad look to do this right now. Unless something happened behind the scenes, it doesn't look good on management, in my opinion.
Why so? Why do you? I mean, to me, there's got to be a story as to why they did it now. They were either fearful of something Gabe would say or do, or they didn't want to distract from Crawford's positive send off, or they just didn't. You know, we haven't seen the Giants in this ownership group ever do this.
It's a new thing. I don't think that in my lifetime, I've never seen it happen. Mid season, the Giants haven't, all the way back to Roger Craig is when I started watching, so it's never happened. So it's a weird situation. My thought on it is that I think that it kind of makes the front office look a little bit disorganized. Like Farhan might be doing this as a panic move. Like you said, maybe it is because they're thinking, oh, Gabe's going to say something or he's going to do something crazy. Could be. But I think that he might be also trying to save his reputation in the next 3 games. But it's okay.
How would he do that even? How would he do it?
I don't think he can. Honestly, it's kind of done. Everybody sees after Webb called him out, sort of. And then Farhan called him out and John Brebbia. This is like 1 week. There's been 3 instances of his leadership being questioned. So I don't think he's going to get another managerial job. I don't think it's going to happen. That's my thought. But I don't think unless we get somebody really big, somebody really good as a manager, a baseball person.
Who do you want? Larry Bear calls Steve Hamilton. He says, Steve, who do you want as the manager? And he says, you know what? We're taking our advice straight from Columbia.
Good. Maybe not a good idea always. I'd love to have somebody like Donnie Baseball, Don Mattingly. I think he would work really well with the Giants. Plus, he has a little bit of an axe to grind with the Dodgers. So
great hitter, one of the, great Yankee for sure. Makes you wonder if if Giants fans want to see more Dodger connections. Maybe not after the way this has gone.
True.
Steve, let me jump, but I appreciate you jumping in, man. And I really thought it was very cool that you jumped in from Columbia. And we do live streams all the time, and we'll do more on the Giants as the offseason news starts to percolate. And if you see us going live, jump in, man. We'd love to get your perspective.
Definitely will.
Thanks, Steve. Have a good one. The great Steve Hamilton from Columbia. On that note, we bring in Dan Coach Emilio from the desert. Danny, we tried to do the car thing with you, but it wasn't happening.
Cut out. I just got back home into the studio, and
I just figured maybe you were going live on your own channel, but you missed this opportunity today. You had an appointment, and you didn't get a chance to talk to your audience.
Well, Eric and Los went on.
They did.
For a while, and I couldn't obviously be there, but. This is such
send me their if they want to jump in here, send me their emails and I'll send them a invite.
I will send you
or text me their emails and I'll send them an invite and we'll recreate the NorCal Sports Network with 600 people in the room. It'll be like a glimpse into the future of your channel.
There we go. Let me send you their emails.
Let me read this one super, too.
Okay.
We got Glass Half Full guy says, are you of the opinion that Farhan or that he is gone? I'm really hoping he's gone. I mean, can you bring Farhan back after firing Kapler? I don't think so. I think his days as being the czar of all things Giants are done. I don't think Farhan comes back in the position that he's in. I really don't. I think it's a losing situation PR-wise. That all being said, I do think Farhan is the kind of think tank guy and that could exist behind the scenes. Heck, if Brian Sabian, who led the Giants as the general manager to 3 straight titles, if he could stay in the organization while Farhan was the decision maker, then clearly Farhan, as the think tank behind the scenes guy, could stay in the organization with a new general manager. I personally think, if you're saying make a prediction, I will predict that Buster Posey will be named president and that Buster will pick his own general manager, probably somebody with experience, and his own manager. And that, I think the Giants, I think Buster would give them the PR, clean slate that they need. And yet he has no experience as an executive. So he needs an experienced executive, either under him or, with him to operate this thing. And I think they need an experienced manager. Go ahead, Danny. What's your perspective on that?
I really like that idea. You may be right on the money on that maybe part of the conversations the last several days has been, hey, look, Farhan, we're going to keep you around in the organization. At least, we've exercised your option. But we want you to go ahead and take care of this situation with Gabe now, and we'll further on move you to another position. Otherwise, if you're not going to do that, we're going to just we're going to let both of you go publicly.
Now, you have been very strong in your desire that there be a clean sweep here. Tell me why. Why does Farhan, in your mind, Danny, need to go?
Well, very clearly, he hired Gabe. He hired Gabe in a controversial manner where it was he stood behind Kapler, and he's the one that put Gabe in place. He's the one who has played this style of ball that Tom Verducci has said, if this is the future of baseball, I want no part of it. This is not, I don't believe Gabe is making this lineup out, platooning everybody, changing, running the pitching staff with openers. I believe this is Farhan's whole ordeal. Farhan also said this was a playoff team. He said we were a World Series contender. In 22, at the trade deadline, we were all on your show saying, sell off, sell Rodon, trade him, get something back for him. What does he do? He says, no, we believe that we have the people in the clubhouse to make a run and be in the playoffs. So for 2 years in a row, he's completely misguided, missed the boat on saying that this is a playoff team. If this is the guy running your ship and he believes he's making a playoff team, why you want to give him a third shot after two horrible seasons at 500 at best? If they they're going to finish under 500 here this weekend. So he's the one who's put it all together. He's also, I believe, one who I believe personally that Logan Webb, when he said there's got to be a shift and a change in the culture, big changes, I think he was referring to everybody, because he brought in AJ Pollock at the trade deadline.
When you're saying that, you're talking about Logan Webb was talking about both.
Yeah, I believe he was talking about everything. Yes, because senior management, or I should say senior manager ownership, said back in the spring, hey, we want to bring Farhan and Gabe back. Yeah, we want to renegotiate a new contract. Well, Farhan's created the culture. Yes, Gabe is a big part of the culture, but Farhan's culture is turning starting pitchers away who're not going to want to come here next year if Farhan's around. I believe Sean Manaea is as good as gone. And if I was Ross Stripling and Farhan was back, I would want to, rather than sign a 1-year deal.
Danny, by the way, scoot up a little bit. People who read lips cannot see those lips.
You know what? Maybe
there we go.
There we go. I think.
Look at that. Oh, now there's a handsome.
Hey.
Look at that, man. Now we can see the dental. We can see the lips.
Yeah.
Now, if he swears, we can really see it.
So, I believe.
Los, good to see you, by the way.
Speaking of dental, Look at the smile on my face.
Look at that. Those are pearly whites. Those are
No, I
pearly
mean,
whites.
after what happened today. Good.
No, yeah.
Yes. Lowe's has
Yeah,
been
that was
rooting for
fun.
this too. We all have. It's a great day. In
Yeah.
fact, gentlemen, do we have drinks in our hands? Can we toast?
Toast. I got 40 ounces.
Where is it? There it is.
Man, let me go get one. I'll get something stronger.
To Kapler being
Yeah.
gone. That's all.
Yeah.
There we go.
So, yeah, I believe that Farhan is definitely part of this, huge part of this culture, and that you're not going to attract any free agents of worth. You're asking Farhan to make a 180 on his style, a complete 180. So to me, he's got to go bring in a whole completely fresh new team and turn this thing around publicity wise on the field. I think if Farhan comes back as the guy, it just sends the message like, yeah, we did a halfway cleaning, but we're still the analytic driven, platoon driven San Francisco Giants.
It's a teeth cleaning where they just do the upper teeth. They don't do the bottom teeth.
Right.
If you're tuning in, first of all, there are people watching on Damon Bruce's channel. There are people watching because he jumped in with me earlier, and then he went to the game, and so his channel's still with us. There's people watching on the Krug Show channel. There are people that know Damon and some that don't. Then Damon left. Then people saw me holding my phone like this. That was Ned, who was driving to a wedding. Ned Colletti, former Giants assistant GM, former Dodger GM. And we brought Ned via audio to the audience, which I thought was phenomenal stuff. Now we are going to Dan Cochimilio, top box. On the bottom, Carlos. On the bottom left, Eric, who's just joined us. Eric, good to see you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is Danny's crew, and these are my friends, and these guys have been talking more Giants baseball all year than probably anybody on YouTube. And so I thought, you three guys are three guys that I absolutely wanted to talk to today. That you guys have been talking this talk and throwing this around with real Giants fans after every Giants game all season long. And there's a lot of frustration with Giants fans. They love being Giants fans. They want to be Giants fans, but they're sick to their stomach about the way that Kapler and to maybe a lesser degree, maybe a greater degree, Farhan has run the Giants ship into the ground. FPS says it's really interesting that Ned Colletti said you either know who you want as your next manager if you're the Giants, or you have a short list. So the Giants must have a short list already. Wonder who's on it. Let's go around the room. Well, why don't we start with you, Eric? Who do you believe is on this short list to replace Gabe Kapler? Eric, you want to go first? Maybe.
Sure. Why not?
Maybe
Yeah,
Eric's.
talking about
Oh, go ahead, Eric.
Managers. It's a little. Yeah, my connection's a little bit weird. I'm on the way to the good old Costco, and I had to pull over here in California.
Eric.
Yeah,
Eric's
cutting out.
You're cutting out, Eric. Why don't you do this, Eric? Since you're cutting out, is we'll be on for a bit. I don't know how long until you're back at your setup. He's a ways away. All right, we'll go to Carlos. Carlos, what do you think? Ned thinks that either the Giants know who the next manager is, or they have a pretty defined short list. Who do you believe is on the short list?
I mean, I think the names that will immediately come to mind are Wotus, Matheny, DeRosa, maybe Yadier Molina, something like that. They've had good success with catchers as managers. In fact, baseball's had a good success with catchers as managers. I don't know if they want to stay within the organization or take a chance and go outside of it. I put a comment up on your channel earlier, Larry, that as far as Wotus goes, and this may sound a little unpopular, but I have visions of Jimmy Davenport. Jimmy Davenport was a great baseball man within the Giants organization. Everybody respected him. Everybody loved him. some guys are meant to be managers and some guys are not meant to be. And when Davenport came in, it was kind of a disaster. And I'm not saying Wotus, that's going to happen with Wotus. I respect the hell out of him, but that does kind of stay in the back of my mind. So it's going to be interesting to see who is selected, because with Farhan only having 1 year on his contract, like, he could be a lame duck. Like, how much respect is the manager going to have coming in, not knowing if the GM is going to be around long term?
Danny,
Yeah.
who would be on your short list, or is your short list and Los is very, very similar?
Well, very similar. I've been touting Molina all summer long on my show, thinking he would be great, and the Cardinals are going to eventually nab him. Why not get him before? If he's a guy, I think he could relate. I think him and Buster, 2 Hall of Fame catchers working together, would be great.
Yeah.
Also, Bob Melvin, if he gets the axe here this weekend, after this weekend, I believe he's going to be very high on their short list. I think he's going to be right at the top. Ronnie Wotus would be great.
Right at the top of the list, despite the train wreck year that you could make an argument that Kapler did a better job managing the Giants this year than Melvin did managing the Padres. You factor in the talent.
Now, I think the key is who is running the show. If Farhan stays as the president of baseball ops and is making the decision, I think, and he doesn't re-sign a long-term deal, and he's just on a 1-year deal, I think they go with Wotus as a stopgap. But I think that would be a mistake to do a stopgap and just do a 1 year, because it just kicks the.
How do you attract free agents with a stopgap?
Exactly. Yeah. That's why I say I think Farhan still may be, like, I like your take, Larry, about moving him to a back office position, bringing in Buster to hire some of his own GM. I think, I said it, we've been talking about it on our show for weeks. We think Ned Colletti and Buster would be a great tandem, that Ned could be the guy that kind of helps Buster kind of get acclimated as an experienced executive. And he has that gravitas. He has that connection with the Giants and Dodgers. Who knows the Dodgers better than anybody that really ran it? I mean, Farhan came from the Dodgers, but he was really an assistant GM. He had the title as GM. Andy, why am I drawing a blank on the president of the Dodgers? Just drew a blank.
Andrew Friedman.
Yeah. I was going to say Andy McPhail. Andrew Friedman is the president of operations. They're really GM and assistant GM. They just changed the titles. Farhan was nothing more than a Pete Petulia. Okay. So he moves from a Pete Petulia to a president or GM of the Giants. And I personally think Farhan's an excellent assistant. I just don't think, I think it's the Peter principle. He is not a guy that goes out and makes big deals. He's not a guy that, he seems a little bit on the more passive side. You look at the guys that make the deals quickly in free agency, they're go-getters and they make deals. They get them done. Farhan seems like a guy that analyzes things to death and waits, and then the market's already been set. He could have had Kevin Gausman at 5 years and 110, and now we look at pitchers getting $40 million a year, the top pitchers, because Farhan waited and he let the market set. Now you can't get a top pitcher for anything less than $30 million a year. And, Scherzer and DeGrom, they're getting, $40 million a year, and all these guys that are happening. So I just got to believe that the best manager for the job would be short list. I like Yadier, as I mentioned. I did hear Ned say, I don't like any experiments, guys that never had big league managerial experience, and not just big league managerial experience, but successful experience. Let's get somebody in here who has a successful track record. And Yachty doesn't have big league experience. He did manage in the World Baseball Classic, but he's also a Hall of Fame guy that knows the game. And
Kalba says Farhan likes the stopgap idea, guys. It best positions them to get that silver medal in the Ohtani sweepstakes. Kalba, yeah, no, I'm seriously. The Giants have come up short an awful lot. This is kind of interesting from MF. Listen to this one. He says, Larry, I think Ned might provide great insight. I saw Ned sitting next to Larry Bear at the Mike Murphy ceremony. And I don't know if you caught me talking to Ned, but I did ask him the obligatory question. Could you see yourself in this situation with the Giants? And he said, I wouldn't want to go there. And then I just wanted to clarify with him, you're saying not that you wouldn't want to come here, is that you don't want to discuss it today. And he said, exactly. So what do you think of a Buster Colletti combo at the top of the regime? Ned has a lot of trust of the Giant ownership. Buster would be the new public face. I think that's a winning combo. I really think that's a winning combo. And I would trust, I mean, Ned hired Joe Torre as his manager. I mean, before that, Grady Little, and Little was a good manager as well. But I think the Giants need a few things here. I think they need a new face publicly for the fans. A guy like Buster would be great. Mm-hmm. I think they need a new voice directly to the agent community, because that's how you get free agents, is being able to speak directly to the agents, and that's where Ned Colletti comes in.
Right.
I think they need a proven, steady PR combo. They need a positive PR guy. I mean, Ned Colletti, as great as Brian Sabian is as a GM, and he obviously is a borderline Hall of Fame GM, Ned Colletti is a far better communicator. Yeah. He's not gruff. The buck stops with him. You don't wonder anything. He speaks the truth. He doesn't try to deal anybody any bogus lines. I just think that the Buster Ned combo makes a lot of sense, and I thought it was interesting that Ned begged off on that. I'm not trying to start anything or create, but Ned's the kind of guy that does not lie and won't tell me a lie. And so when he says I don't want to talk about it, I think that makes me think there's something there.
Read between the lines for sure.
Because obviously nothing would be finalized, but if he doesn't want to talk about it, it makes me at least think that there is something there. And then when I'm thinking about it from a baseball perspective, based on what I know about the Giants ownership, what I know about Giants fans, and what I know about where the Giants are as a team, I think a Buster Posey, Ned Colletti combo at the top would instantaneously give the fans confidence, the
passion,
the agents confidence, the clubhouse confidence, and I could see Farhan remaining as some kind of a lieutenant think tank guy behind the scenes in this regime. I think Ned could handle it. I think Buster could handle it. I think Farhan could handle it, and I think Farhan has value.
Oh, I agree, Larry, 100%. And if they did that, that would ignite not only the Bay Area, the passion for the team, but nationally, they would go right up to the top of the ladder in publicity, and they would be the talk of the off season, because I believe if the Giants ownership committed to that, I believe they would put a full court press on, and they would actually have a shot at Ohtani. And if they didn't get Ohtani, they would be making other moves to make them very competitive. And I think you put that combination of Ned and Buster at the top and put Farhan where he pretty much was with the Dodgers, a little bit more behind the scenes. I think Farhan brings great value in that position. I just don't think he brings value as the head lead face of the franchise, because it's not his fault. It's just he doesn't have the people skills. Ned Colletti's not going to get pushed around by Scott Boras. Okay.
Right.
Not at all. We've heard him give stories of his negotiations with Scott Boras and other agents, and Ned's not going to get pushed around. And I don't think Farhan intentionally gets pushed around. He just doesn't have the experience, and that's just not his personality. Some
different skill sets. Different. We're talking about totally different skill sets. Eric rejoins us now. Eric, good to see you. Sorry that we were trying to catch you in your car. Eric, what do you think of what we've been talking about here? And for those watching on Damon Bruce's channel, I need to say, hey, once again, you're watching. Obviously, I'm Larry Kruger. That's Dan Coach Emilio. He's the host of NorCal Sports Network.
Yeah, join and subscribe, please.
Eric is one of Danny's guys, Los, one of Danny's guys. We're all friends. I've been on their channel many times this year, and nobody has talked more Giants baseball on YouTube after Giants baseball games than these three gentlemen. So it's fitting that they would join me on this platform today to talk about the Giants with 500 people in the room. Eric, what do you think of the idea of maybe Buster at the top of the masthead for the fans, Ned on the top of the masthead as the general manager to give the Giants credibility within the community of player agents? And I'm not sure who they would pick as a manager, but I like the idea of that duo atop the Giants. To me, it would give them instant credibility on two fronts. Eric, go ahead. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I can't agree 100% more. And I even mentioned this earlier. Can you imagine the line of general manager positions? You had Brian Sabian, who came in what was it, 1997? Was that
7? Yeah.
1997. And his assistant GM was Ned Colletti. Ned Colletti learned how to be a Sabian. We're talking about lineage here. To make Ned Colletti the head of, or the president of baseball operations, and then take underneath his wing Buster Posey as GM. So now you could have Ned show Buster not about baseball stuff, but just how to be a GM. Take him under his wing, and now you got another line of the lineage to Buster Posey. You got three great Giant general managers, leadership of the organization, who has the best intentions for the organization. I think you can't. It's a win-win situation. You instantly turn the fan base around because obviously they've been turned off. And I explained this earlier too in our show. We're not doing it to try to get clicks or anything like that. We're speaking passionately about this organization, and the only way that can be changed is by unfortunately seeing these people fail. But if you get in the head of whether it's a president of baseball operations and GM, I mean, you're immediately turning excitement into this organization. And on top of that, more importantly, you're going to be able to recruit those future free agents who see, they got baseball people at the head what to do. And they're going to be able to take care of me, not only as a player, but be able to take care of the team as far as their strategy and how they go about their business.
Let me read a couple supers here. I'm also welcoming in Marty Lurie, who's going to join us. He's doing an interview with Chris Townsend right now. Awesome. Jim Molay says, somebody can confirm, but I do not believe Buster Posey can be the manager and also be an owner of the team at the same time. That's probably true.
I don't think he wants to manage.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, I really don't think so. We also have this one from Glass Half Full Guy. Do you guys think Buster wants to put in the time commitment that a leadership position would demand? I would endorse a Posey Colletti leadership team. That's a good question. Ned is a tireless worker. If you're the president of an organization, you're going to be immersed. It's a great question. But that's why I think it's important that you do have I wouldn't feel, even though I love Buster, and we all know Buster's a baseball genius, I don't feel confident in Buster in either role totally alone.
Mm-hmm.
He's never managed. He's never been a general manager. To make him the full-time GM or the full-time manager would be a roll of the dice that this organization should not take, in my opinion.
Correct.
Makes sense. That makes sense. That's
And
why
I love Buster.
That's
We
why
all
I
do.
think that Colletti and Buster Posey's combination would be fantastic.
Well, what I really love, and by the way, let me give credit here to Eric. I think he's the first one a month or so ago, or maybe 2 months, I'm not sure, came up with the Colletti Buster idea on our show, and it was
Appreciate it. Thanks.
just really resonated with all of us. And Larry, you took it a step further in that, talking about the roles. I think the title would be more or less Buster being the GM and Ned the president of baseball ops, and having Buster kind of be that behind this, he could be out front and talking more and doing a lot of the things. But Ned is such a well-respected person in the industry. And the fact that he knows the Dodgers so well, knows them way better than Farhan, and knows the Giants way better than Farhan.
Yeah.
I mean, you're bringing one guy that really knows both organizations, has great respect among all the agents, a guy who is not easily, as I said, pushed around. We saw the Giants kind of get pushed around with Aaron Judge, and we saw the flop, the handling of Carlos Correa. That doesn't happen under Ned Colletti. Neither of those things happen. I think what happens with Aaron Judge, with Ned Colletti, is, hey, you're either committing to us or we're cutting bait. We're not going to be drug along here till the last minute and then end up with Mitch Haniger as the booby prize. I think with Carlos Correa, there's no press conference announced with no medicals. None of that happens. We can't have this kind of a, amateur hour show going on with the most winningest franchise in Major League Baseball history. I'm talking about the San Francisco Giants. More wins than the LA Dodgers, more wins than the New York Yankees. Yes, less titles than the Yankees, but more lifetime wins over his history. This is a very, very iconic franchise that cannot screw this up. It's time that the Giants step up and go head to head with the Dodgers. And right now, they're not even the stepchild.
I have to address this one, by the way. Julie Ann Bray says, whether or not Kapler was a good manager or not, I don't like this guy being me. She says, I don't need, and then she quotes me, I don't need Kapler. I have my own YouTube channel. She says, who gives a crap? What? My point in saying that is just to say that almost everybody tied to Giants media that you hear giving opinions, other than the four people you're currently staring at, has some connection to the Giants that where they can't necessarily just tell you honestly that they don't like the manager or general manager and not feel some pushback in real time. That was what I was saying. I don't think I'm special because I have a YouTube channel, okay? Julianne Bray. I'm just saying I'm truly independent. So people come to me and say, well, Krug, what, you're so negative about the Giants. It must be personal. No, it's not personal. You're listening to people who all have a financial stake tied to every person that you're listening to besides Danny, Los, Eric, myself, people on YouTube have money, their salaries, their income, their livelihoods are tied directly to Gabe Kapler likes me. Farhan Zaidi likes me. When you're under their thumb, you're under their thumb. I love the broadcasters. They're great. They work for the San Francisco Giants. And if they rip Gabe Kapler in July, guess what? They don't work for the San Francisco Giants, probably. The people on the flagship station work for a station that's partially owned by the San Francisco Giants. Laura Britt and the TV crew that you're watching after all these games, they're giving you their opinions to a point. It's all going to be colored with Go Giants because the Giants own part of that. They don't own any of this. They can't fire me. I can say what I want about the Giants, so I'm truly independent. Danny can say what he wants about the Giants, so he's truly independent. Julianne, try to wrap your arms around that. Ask yourself, who are you listening to about the Giants? And if we sound diametrically opposite of those people, there's a reason for that. I was pointing that reason out. They don't own me. They don't control me. They don't own my sponsors. They don't own my revenue. They cannot fire me. So I'm truly independent. That's all I was saying. I don't think I'm special for having a YouTube channel. I'm just telling you that if it sounds like, wow, he's overly negative, because you're listening to a lot of people with pom-poms and a lot of people who are literally, my job is, if I rip Gabe Kapler, I've got to go into the room tomorrow and get a quote from him. And what if he won't talk to me? Then the newspaper says, bye-bye, or my magazine says bye-bye, or my radio station says bye-bye, or my television station says bye-bye, and suddenly I don't have a job. So when you're in that position, you're going to be way more favorable to the team than people who are in our position, where we can say what we want without worrying that they're going to take our livelihood from us. Clearly, you can understand that.
To add to that, Julianne, and to paraphrase that, better to be self-employed over salary, because we say what we want to say, not what we have to say.
Yeah, I mean, had an opportunity, both Larry and I, we looked at actually taking our YouTube channel to the Giants and helping promote the Giants. And
right. We talked to the Giants about actually doing stuff directly with them.
Yeah.
And we all decided, the Giants executives and us all decided that it would be better if we just maintained independence. So we're not a bought and paid for Sunday in the park. You know,
Right.
We're not a bought and paid for post-game show on the radio station that's revenues directly tied to the success of the franchise. There's a reason that Laura Britt never rips the Giants. She can't. There's a reason that you're not going to hear people on KNBR rip the Giants. They can't. We can. That's the difference.
And I'll tell you, it's channels like Larry's and myself, NorCal Sports Network, that has kind of led the way in the last few months of talking about this whole regime change and the need to step up and fire Kapler and do this, that you actually started seeing movement in the last 2 weeks, because they could not sit back and continue to support it any longer when you saw what was happening on the field and the clubhouse was lost. We've been saying for months, Gabe doesn't have the clubhouse. I read a report just yesterday that one player came out and said, Gabe couldn't lose a clubhouse he never had. And then he said, oh, well, that might be a little strong, and tried to dial it back a little bit. But it was an anonymous quote. But we saw this months ago. And because of YouTube channels like Larry's and myself, we actually kind of paved the way and pushed people to be a little bit more honest, because if they kept supporting this, they look pretty disingenuous. They actually look pretty foolish. How do you support something that is just falling apart? And so thank God for Larry's channel. And, you know, I got my start with Larry last year, started my own. We're independent. And
we wouldn't have it any other way. And the shows we wouldn't have. I wouldn't have the audience I have. Danny wouldn't have the audience he has. And these people that act like old media is dominant. I'm making more money than all those people, so they can. They can say what they want. I'm loving life. I can't be fired, and I'm doing what I'm doing, and I love it. And you should love it too, because this is a place where you can actually get unfiltered truth. What Danny and Los and Eric have been saying all summer, and what I've been saying when I joined them, and what I've been saying the last few weeks, are things that the paid media only now feel comfortable saying. Things that Dan and Eric and Los have been saying in September and August and July are things that the guys who get paid by whatever media entity or outlet you want to throw out there are now saying. So, I mean, who had it first? Who had this story first? Old media, new media. I'll tell you what was an eye-opener to me, and I mentioned it to you guys on your show, was it last Friday?
Yeah.
Was when Marty Lurie came out and endorsed firing the regime. And I don't know if did he say fire Kapler or did he say fire Farhan or both?
Mostly Kapler, wasn't it? I think the
Marty's going to be joining us, by the way, in about 5 minutes.
Perfect.
So we're going to get Marty's thoughts on here in about 5 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. But Marty is another guy who has, in my mind, has tons of credibility, and I respect him immensely. And I know these other three gentlemen do as well.
Yeah, we've had Marty on too. And hey, this is all the beautiful thing about the media is we all work together in some way, form, or fashion. But when you talk about the beat writers, I knew Kapler was gone when I started seeing the beat writers coming down. Seeing Baggerly and Kawakami and you mentioned, Larry, about some of the ones that have been a little bit more not as free to say anything. We heard Baggerly, he works with The Athletic. We heard Kawakami with The Athletic. We've seen Bruce Jenkins with the Chronicle, Susan Slusser, but probably the most quietest on the Gabe front was Pavlovich, who has a lot of the insight, but he works directly for the Giants, NBC Sports Bay Area. So you're not going to get that. But I kind of had a feeling that this was going to happen. I expect it today? No, I expected it after Sunday's game. I really thought this was going to happen Sunday or Monday at the latest. I'm pleasantly surprised that it happened today, which gives me hope that there's other things in the pipeline, because that the fact that they put Farhan out in front of this tells me they're going to have him somewhere in the organization, but a lot of people still think he's going to come back. It doesn't make sense for me to bring him back as the spokesperson, the guy making all the deals and decisions with the club, when you're going into such a important off season, probably more important than any time since they brought in Bruce Bochy back in what was it, 07? They brought
2007.
In this is now we're looking 16 years later, almost 17, going into 24 season. You can't mess this up. You can't bring a guy back to run the organization when you're talking about you got to make a complete roster change. You got to bring in everyday players. You're going to have to trade for some of those guys. You're going to have to try and get some free agents. There's not a great free agent class this year. There's Ohtani, and then there's Bellinger, and there's Reese Hoskins that come to my top of my mind. But you're not attracting not one of those with Farhan at the helm, because if Farhan fails next year, then he's gone. And then those players They want stability. You're not going to attract a manager. You're not going to attract anybody with Farhan on a 1-year deal.
Here's another point with that, Dan, is what kind of leverage does Farhan come back with the organization if it only has 1 year?
None.
He has none. The ownership is probably going to put the locks on the bank. So
do we know, Eric, not to interrupt, do we know he has 1 year?
That supposedly that's what the report was. The Greg's they're going to come back for 1 more year, right?
Somebody did ask him in the press conference about that 1 year.
Today?
Legit, yeah.
What was the answer to that?
He kind of skated around it. He basically, avoided the question.
And this is what I was thinking, that I don't think it could be a 1 year. It can't be a 1 year deal. So either Farhan sticks around for a multi-year or he's gone. Because if you come around,
you know what he gets, Eric? He gets what you reap what you sow.
Right.
You gave Bochy 1 year of kind of lame duck status while you took over. Now you're going to be out of the power seat in lame duck status, doing some lesser role in somebody else's party. That's my guess. That'll be my guess on it.
I think you're right on
let's
this,
talk.
Larry.
Let's talk positively for a second, and let's flip this around and talk positively about where the Giants are on the positive side. Okay, because we know they need a new public face. We know they need a new general manager. We know they need a new field manager. Okay, so they really need quite a bit, but it's not like the cupboard is bare. I heard today that Joey Bart was sent down, so maybe he's trade bait. But just going around the diamond, I put together a little breakdown of the Giants as I see them right now. And tell me what you guys think of this. If we go around the diamond, behind the plate, they have Patrick Bailey. Right now, they still own the rights to Joey Bart, and they've got Blake Sable. And they've got some good young catchers in the farm system beneath those guys. But that's just, 40-man roster, what they'll have next year. That's not bad. It's not bad. Third base, if you wanted to bring it back, you could have Casey Schmidt, J.D. Davis, and David VR. That's where they're sitting at third. Not bad. At shortstop, you got Marco Luciano, Tyler Fitzgerald, Averson Artiega coming up behind them. That's not bad. Artiega is the real deal defensively. Luciano looks like maybe the most exciting young bat in the organization. Fitzgerald is probably kind of a bench piece. They can play infield, outfield, but he plays a little shortstop. At second, you've got Tyro Estrada and Brett Wisely. At first, you have Flores and Lamont Wade. I personally think that I would really make a big play for either Reese Hoskins, who went to Jesuit High School in Sacramento, went to Sac State, Stingers up. If you don't want to go with Hoskins coming off the ACL, you could make a bigger play for Cody Bellinger. Put him at first base if you wanted. So you have some options there. Wade had a really nice offensive year. Very much surprised me, by the way. I thought Wade was not going to bounce back. He did. Okay, so that's what you got around the diamond in the infield. In the outfield, Conforto is probably going to opt out. Who knows, but he may or may not. You got Elliot Ramos. You still got Yaz if you want Yaz. You got Vaughn Brown coming up. That's in right. In center, you got Luis Matos. You still got Austin Slater. I personally would go after a Harrison Bader. He's not a great player, but I think he's a hustler. He's a culture player that I think would be good. In left field, I don't know what you're going to have, but you got Wade Meckler, who's got a little bit of batting average. You got young athletic Grant McCray coming through the system, who's probably almost ready. Jairo Palmeras. You still got Jock. So that's what you're looking at position player-wise. Have I missed anybody of significance that could potentially help in 24?
Ramos.
No, you said
I threw Ramos in right.
Did you throw?
Yeah.
Yeah. You had Ramos.
I threw Ramos in right field.
I mean, I've personally on our show advocated for the Giants to zag while the rest of baseball zig.
Let's pause on this for a second because we want to welcome in Marty Lurie Los.
Yeah.
We just talked him up. The great Marty Lurie is in the house, and Marty has tremendous respect. He has my respect. I know he has all of your respect.
Yes,
he's been owning the airwaves for the Giants and the A's on KNBR, and before that on the A's station for decades. There may not be a media person that I've ever come across that I respect more than Marty. And I haven't talked to him since he kind of called for regime change himself a few weeks back or a few days back. I did take notice of that, though, and it made me go, wow. And he joins us right now from the ballpark as he's getting ready to watch the game tonight. Marty, thank you very much for your time. It's a big day for Giants fans. It's a big day for the Giants organization. Before we lead you in any direction, just give us your perspective on the happenings of the day thus far.
I think
Marty, can you hear us?
Is his mic muted?
I don't know.
His mic might be muted.
Marty, your mic might be muted.
Can he? I don't know if he can hear.
We're not hearing you. We're not hearing.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Let me see. Let me see if I can.
I think he's not hearing us.
I'll put him in the center square. Marty, can you hear us? We can. We can see you, but we can't hear you.
Can we?
So is there maybe you muted your mic right down there? Can you hear us? You can hear us, right, Marty?
No, doesn't look like.
I don't think he can hear us.
I don't think.
No, we can't hear Marty. We can't hear Marty.
I'm not sure. He kind of looks like he's not hearing us.
He's not responding to us asking him questions, so I don't think he can hear us either.
We're not hearing you, Marty. I'll text him.
Yeah, good try again.
We will try to connect with Marty.
While you're working on that, I would say, as far as the Giants around the infield, I would love to see him just go with Casey Schmidt at third, Luciano at short, Estrada at second. I would like to see what you said, go after Rhys Hoskins and Bellinger, get both of those guys. I think you can, and I would make an attempt to trade for Trout as long as the Angels were paying a large portion of the salary. If the Giants wanted to go ahead and pay that salary, they have the money to do it and don't have to give up anything. You could do that. But I like the idea of Trout playing, 75, 60, 75, 80 games out in center field and DHing him the other times to keep him healthy. That gets Bellinger out in the field in center and Rhys Hoskins. Those three guys, if you brought those three guys in, they can rotate between DH, first base, and then I would have Lamont Wade and Wilmer Flores as my bench pieces, and those two guys would be my big bats off the bench, and you can use Wade in the outfield to start occasionally when you need a starter. You can use him at DH. You can use him as a pinch hitter. And then I would also use Tyler Fitzgerald as my Chris Taylor. I would have Tyler Fitzgerald move around the diamond if he needs to play short one night.
I can hear you.
Oh, wait, hold on, Danny. Hold on. We're going to pause that thought, Danny. We're going to welcome in Marty from the ballpark. Marty, I don't know if you heard me, but I gave you a great intro there. We got great respect for you. I really stood up and took notice when you kind of called for change a few weeks back. Tell me your reaction to the news today that the Giants have decided to part ways with Gabe Kapler tonight.
Well, not a surprise at all. Over what we've seen over the last couple of weeks, this team has not played good ball. They haven't played good ball for 2 years. All the indications in baseball when these things happen generally lead to a managerial change. I think ownership mandated it to Farhan.
Yep.
I think it was shown by the fact that the crowds are going nowhere. The buzz around the Bay Area was not good. Ticket sales are down. The ball club was not playing well. They had a reliever go on the mound and make a mockery of a pitching change. They led the major leagues in errors. They had forgotten how many outs there were a couple of different times. And I think it was time to get a new voice here. And I think if Farhan wants to save his job, he's going to have to realize that he and the analytics cannot control everything. And they need someone who can connect better way with the clubhouse. And I don't think Gabe was strong enough in dictating some discipline with the players in the clubhouse. and they very rarely took batting practice on the field. And I think it showed. And Alex Cobb explained it to me, said there's a losing culture. Said, what's that? He said a losing culture is when you walk into the ballpark thinking you're going to lose, and somehow it becomes acceptable. And that's sort of what the veterans talked out about over the last couple of weeks. So when you hear all that, knowing the history of baseball and the way managerial changes occur, you realize that all the elements were there to make the change. Now, Farhan handpicked Gabe, and when he came out tonight to talk about Gabe, he said glowing things about him. He didn't want to fire him. Believe me, he didn't want to fire him. I think this was something that was mandated by ownership, and he had to react to it. And he wasn't going to fight the battle and say, look, I want Gabe. And if they gave in and it was a bad year, he'd lose his job too. So he's going to get a new manager. He'll get someone who's a little bit more of a veteran, who's got some more autonomy, who won't be wed to the front office. And it's got to be a name. You can't come back and say the new manager is Jose Espada, the bench coach from the Houston Astros. You know, this is like when Dusty left, they had to bring Felipe in, you know, your favorite. They had to bring him in and, you know, and do that because you just couldn't lose Dusty and not have a name manager. When Felipe left, they had to bring Bochy in because that's the way they operate. Now, I think they're back to that. And he says he wants to have a manager within the next month. And I asked him that question. He says, yeah, by free agency, I want to have a manager. And if that's the case, you can't have 6 rounds of, you know, interviews with bench coaches you've never heard of. It's going to have to be probably someone you interview once or twice who has a track record. And I think that's the kind of person they're going to pick.
Is there, you know, we had Ned Colletti give us his perspective, and he said, I said, Ned, is this the kind of move that you make not knowing who you're going to go with? And he said, well, you either know who you're going to go with or you have a very short list. Who do you believe, if they don't already know who it is, who would be your guess, Marty, is on the very short list?
Well, I'd say that he's a tall fellow and be Bob Melvin on a short list. If something goes down in San Diego, which it may on Monday, they have this big meeting with Preller and the owner and Bob Melvin. And Bob Melvin, if they've used the term irreconcilable differences, and you know I know what that means from being in court. If they have irreconcilable differences and a divorce has to happen, and Melvin is the one who leaves, and he may volunteer to leave, or he may be told to leave, and Preller would stay there. I think the Giants would grab Bob Melvin in a second and bring him in.
Former Giant, Cal guy, Bay Area guy, very respected. Farhan knows him.
Job. Yeah, and he's worked with the Farhan types before, and he is an autonomous man. And he got into a toxic situation in San Diego with the contracts with Tatis, and it just never gelled for him. He had a lot of bullpen issues. Starting pitching got injured. They just got off to a terrible start. And there was trouble within that clubhouse because you're managing $300 million. You're not managing $50 million, and it just never meshed for him. And I think if he could get out, I think the Giants would jump at him in a second.
Interesting. Do you believe that Farhan is going to be the top? Is he going to be the preeminent guy, or do you think, because he's on a 1-year deal, Marty, and I think they got to try to attract some free agents, and that might be a difficult thing if your point man for negotiations is on a 1-year deal. Is there a chance that they would hire, I don't know, we've speculated like a Buster Posey as a president and maybe somebody else, and move Farhan into more of a think tank advisory role where it's no longer his show? Or do you think it's going to remain his show?
No, it's his show.
If
you're going to make a change, this is not a general manager. This is the head of the whole organization. So if you're going to start fooling around with him and start making changes, you got to plan that for 6 months. You don't do that over 3 weeks. Gee, we're not winning, and the culture's no good, and yeah, Gabe's lost control of this. We got to change it. And by the way, Farhan, we're going to change your role too. No, he's in charge of the whole organization. if there's going to be a change with him, that's something that's got to be planned for 6 months, and sort of understand it's going to affect the minor leagues, the scouting, and everybody else under his control. I think he still will have control, but I think he was given a new message, and that is lighten up, get off the numbers so much, and let the manager manage, and let's get some free agency. You bring up a good point. If the manager is there for a year or 2 years, or if Farhan's only there for another year, do you want to get involved with it? And as Dan knows, money solves everything. And if you pay, they'll come here. It's still San Francisco. It's still, a Pearl franchise. And if you pay, they'll come here, especially pitchers. I don't care what they say about, well, they messed around with the pitching staff this year. This is still a great ballpark. It's a great place for a pitcher to pitch. I'd like to see Nate Snell come here. Blake Snell.
Blake Snell, yeah.
Yeah, Blake Snell from San Diego. Boy, put him in this rotation. I'd love to see Sonny Gray come here. Give me another arm to go with Logan Webb and with Harrison. You got something there. And then I would hope Manaea stayed, but it looks like he's going to go. He really pitched well at the end. He's a power lefty. But, you got a couple of pitchers in, and they need some bats. That's the critical thing. They need some identity in the middle of the order. You can't go back with Flores and Yastrzemski and things like that. J.D. Davis. You got to get some legitimate bat in that.
Who would you target, Marty? Who would you target bat-wise? I mean, there's Ohtani, there's Bellinger, there's Rhys Hoskins. Hoskins went to Jesuit High School, Sac State. He's a NorCal guy. There's Mike Trout rumors. There's Pete Alonso rumors. There's Juan Soto rumors. If they said to you, Marty, hey, give me your advice on the matter, what would you advise?
I'd go for Bellinger. I think it really makes a difference in center field here. It's like getting Crawford at shortstop. You got a captain of the outfield, and the guy can cover everything, and it makes up for a lot of things that'll be on the corners, especially if Matos is in one of the corners, because he doesn't cover as much ground. I would go for Bellinger, and the other one is Alonso.
Pete Alonso.
Come on, you're looking at
the polar bear.
You're looking at left field here. This guy just hits line drive after line drive after line drive. He could do damage in this ballpark. Soto looks to me, you talk to FP, who had him in Washington, he claims he's an East Coast kid, and he would rather be on the East Coast. So I don't see them trading for Soto, and I don't see San Diego trading Soto anyway, let alone not to the Giants. How could you trade Soto here? I mean, honestly, it'd be crazy to think that. So I'd say Bellinger and Alonso would be my two.
Marty, if I can ask a question, please.
Go for it. Yeah, absolutely.
Marty, based on your speculation, which I believe is correct, that Farhan did not want to fire Kapler, despite the spiraling team, despite everything that's going on, doesn't that lessen his credibility with ownership to be the answer long term?
Yeah, of course. He's got to produce. He's only got a 1-year deal. He's coming back for, he hasn't signed a 3-year deal. Whatever that option is, I assume it's picked up. He knows he's coming back. And sure, the clock is running on him.
Marty,
he's got to do the thing you just described. And if he doesn't, there will be a change there. And that's when you get the manager in. It's this. Art Howe had this situation when he went to New York, and Steve Phillips hired him. Well, I said to Art, Steve Phillips is probably going to get fired after the first year. And of course, Art had a good contract, so it didn't matter. But, the general manager, head of the operation, gets fired after the first year. And if the manager's not producing, then he's in trouble. So it is a little bit of a dicey situation with Farhan. As Larry likes to say, he's on the clock.
Yeah. Danny's got one for you. Go ahead, Danny.
Marty, if this was your organization,
How's
you're
the
running
weather,
the show.
And
He said, how's the weather in Arizona, Danny?
It's nice. It's going to cool off this weekend. Going to be in the 80s finally.
Oh, look at that.
I'll be home Tuesday.
Oh, be nice weather next week. if this was your organization and this is your opportunity to do a complete reset with a whole new regime, or bring back the guy who I feel is somewhat, the major responsibility of what's happened, why would you bring back Farhan for one more year on a lame duck year when you're trying to reestablish everything, set a new standard, get rid of the platoon baseball at all costs, the analytics analytics are important. We all know it's a part of sports, but to put it to the point where you're pinch hitting for your third and fourth place hitters, that's a recipe for just another bad year.
Yeah, I think they're going to, Danny. I think they're going to try to get away from that. I don't think that's what Farhan wants to do. I don't think that'll be the message to the manager. It depends on the players too. Depends who they get as players. But as I said to Larry, if you wanted to make a move with Farhan, that had to be planned 6 months in advance. That's not something you do gee, we had a couple of bad weeks, let's fire
But
Farhan.
the Red Sox did it. The Red Sox went and fired Chaim Bloom. Months ago.
Well, Chaim Bloom got fired, but you don't know how many weeks that was in the mix. I mean, the Red Sox have been miserable all year, and you're talking about a franchise, with John Henry in this crowd. You don't know what they were thinking about. So we know that the Giants are not ready to get rid of Farhan. They're not ready to look for a successor, and that takes time. So I think the message to him will be to operate a little differently, and let's see what kind of players he brings in if he could do it. And if he can't do it, I think he'll be out.
I would think, a guy that built his reputation on Moneyball with the A's, and that's his passion, that's his mantra, that's everything he does. He built this entire structure. Even in the 21 season, it was successful, but it's always been about matchups to the extreme. They call up guys from Sacramento for 1 or 2 games just to get an advantage. And then they send him right back down. What makes you think he'll change?
He wants to keep his job.
But that's going against his complete nature. Why would you have a guy?
People, he's a smart man. If he gets like Larry says, if he goes out and gets a Bellinger or an Alonso, and you get Luciano develops, and you get some players that you can keep in there all the time, and you don't have a manager who's completely wed to that platoon business and moving people in and out, Farhan can evolve. He's a very.
I just think it's an experiment because he's never evolved. He's always been about this type of baseball. This is his training with the
like
A's.
That with the Dodgers.
Well, he was just an assistant. He wasn't the president of baseball.
Give me another team that he was the Giant. Give me another team that he had this authority with other than the Giants.
He's had no authority.
Well, that's my point.
So, but he's had 5 years.
He's not a 20-year established general manager.
But he's had 5 years and he's run the same thing. He's done. I mean, this is the work. Tom Verducci says this is the future of baseball. I want no part of it. This is Farhan's baby. This is what he's done. I don't know why the Giants would want to bring that back, especially even on a 1-year deal.
Because there's no alternative right
now.
now.
There's alternatives. There's alternatives out there. They could go pay for a Dombrowski, or how about Mike Rizzo of Washington? They're looking to sell. Go get it, or
This team is not ready to win a pennant yet. They've got a lot more evolving to do. They've got a lot more players to deal. They got to evaluate who's here. And they've got to move some players off this roster, and they've got to evaluate which young players can make it. Your point is, I'm not disagreeing with your point, your basic premise. I just don't think the timing is right to do it. And I think
it's the perfect timing because I think you're just clean house because I don't think Farhan one more year is going to turn around the franchise.
We'll see. I mean, that's why we love, as Larry says, that's why we love baseball. It's a talking sport. And we'll revisit this in a year, and you'll explain to me when the World Series is going to start for the
Let me get Eric in here because Eric's been following this story all summer too, Marty, and I'm sure has a good question for you. Eric, fire away for one for Marty. We're not going to keep Marty too much longer. I got one or two more for him, but get one in there, Marty.
There's a game tonight.
I know. Well, how about this? Eric has one. I got one more, and then we'll jet.
All right. Yours can take a while though, Eric.
Hey, good to talk to you again, Marty.
Eric's question is about Rommel, the desert fox.
Look, I've been talking to Eric for 15 years.
Yeah, it's been about that, hasn't it? Yeah, it's great to be able to talk to you, Marty.
Are you saying on this live stream?
Eric and Salty were my two most favorite calls.
Oh, R.I.P. Salty.
Thanks, Marty. I appreciate that. The biggest concern I have in hearing all this is it's one thing when strategy doesn't work, or you got some wrong players here, or maybe they weren't led the right way. But when you're talking about changing culture, that seems like a really big thing, especially in an organization. When you're changing a culture, it's not like a 1-year fix. It's not a quick fix. It's something that needs to be taken care of over a long period of time. And once the culture gets damaged, again, like I said, it's going to take a long time for that culture to come back in where they want it. Because, San Francisco Giants is a proud organization, one of the longest teams that's been in the major leagues in a lot of history. As far as the change is concerned, I don't want to see Farhan come back on a lame duck year. Do you make anything of Buster Posey coming back to the Bay Area? Because he had left. He retired. He sold his place in the Bay Area. He goes back to Georgia, stays there for maybe a half a year, and then he comes back to the Bay Area. As an owner, you really don't have to be, centrally located in San Francisco or in San Francisco to be an owner. Do you foresee, that's been going on for a few months now. Do you see Buster Posey playing a pretty significant part in the organization?
I think so. I think he wanted to come back, and I think he likes living in the Bay Area. They've got the 4 little kids here to raise, and they chose to live in the Bay Area as opposed to living in Georgia. And I think that's the respect he has for the fans out here, for the community, and for the lifestyle. And I think he wanted to come back here. And look, he's a very smart man, and he bought in. They didn't just give him shares. He invested in this ball club.
Right.
And he invested in it to say something. And he's on the executive board. So, it's not just, as Larry says, businessmen or people like that. This is a baseball guy on the board. So, they're going to listen to him. And I think he's going to have something to say about what Dan was talking about, what I'm talking about. And he will be part of the evaluation system. And don't forget, Mark Hallberg, who's the third base coach, was his college roommate. And Mark Hallberg is someone who really understands the game. And he understands the way the game should be played and the way you should prepare and how hard you have to work. You got to take batting practice on the field. You got to run on the field. You got to take fly balls during batting practice. They were running a laboratory in the batting cage. It was like Driveline moved to San Francisco. People should be on the field. They should be fielding ground balls. They should be doing stuff off the bat. They don't need a little red machine to catch ground balls.
And trying incense in the batting cage.
Huh?
They put incense in the batting cage to try and help the players out. That's just bizarre stuff.
Well, they should put Barry Bonds in there to help the players. That would help too, or Will Clark. But Posey, yes, to answer your question, Eric, I believe Posey will have a voice, and I believe that he is someone that will have a voice and they'll listen to. And I'll say it again, Larry loves the NFL. Farhan, you're on the clock.
Marty, last one, and I love you. I'm so thrilled that you're joining us on a day like today.
A long question, I know it. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a long one. Everybody, it's all take a nice deep breath. No, it's a two-parter. Here's the two-parter.
Mine was short.
One is part one is what in your mind went wrong with Kapler, and two, I'm a Ron Wotus fan, and I've become more of a Ron Wotus fan watching him analyze the Giants with Laura Britt on television.
Yep.
He has shown through ugliness, an ugly season, a great focus on baseball and winning baseball. And you can hear winning baseball every time the man opens his mouth. And to me, I'm not saying that he should have gotten the job over Boch, but I do believe that he deserves this opportunity. You know him personally. Give me your thoughts on where things went wrong for Cap, and how do you feel Ron would feel about becoming the manager of the Giants in 2024?
Well, I think with Kapler, a lot of it was the players. Honestly, I think that Farhan didn't get him the players he really needed. And, there's the old saying, get rid of a player a year too early, rather a year too late. And he ended up with players that just got injured. His philosophy was to bring in players. Hey, how are you? His philosophy was to, I'm in the bunker, so people are coming by here.
That's all right.
His philosophy, Larry, you put in enough hours in the bunker. You know what it's like.
Oh, I've been there. I've alienated nations inside that building.
It's true. So, he got players that didn't work out. And I don't think Kapler really could adjust away from the serious platooning. I mean, he got into, this player gives me a 4% chance of getting a hit as opposed to this guy gives me a 6% chance, that kind of stuff. And I think he just lost the humanity of running a baseball team. And he's a nice player. He was a nice player. He was an outfielder. He's a smart man. He loves all the new age things about, sleep deprivation and all this kind of stuff. And I think he just lost the discipline of a baseball player going through 162 games, that you just can't let them run amok and let them do whatever they want. And I honestly think that's where they went wrong. That's my opinion on that I think he just wasn't strict enough with the players.
It did feel like the players could do no wrong was the culture, and that's not really a culture.
It was always, defending him, one-on-one conversations.
Right.
It almost felt like a therapy session as opposed to a manager handling a ball club.
And the Wotus side. Give me your thoughts on Wotus. You know him well.
Woe would be great. I mean, look, he would be great. I don't discount him, under Bob Melvin at all. Woe knows this organization. He knows the Giant way. He knows the Giant fan base. He loves the media. He can handle the media. He's been on with me every Sunday morning for 14 years. And just really a very honest man, tells you what he thinks. He's a people person. He's every man's man kind of thing. He's just a very decent guy. He knows the game's cold. He loves defense. He's got all sorts of gold glovers developed throughout his career.
Great work ethic.
Everything is good. And whether Farhan would choose him to be the guy to protect Farhan, that's the thing. Does Farhan have the confidence in Woe to say he can protect me so I don't get fired? Or do I need someone like a Bob Melvin who I can trust a little more to be the manager if he was available? Now, let's say Melvin's not available. As I say, you don't want Jose Espada, you don't want Matt Quattro, or, people that you never heard of before. You can't do that to this fan base. You cannot walk in December or November and say, here's our new manager. And by the way, we'll give you a list of his accomplishments, but we don't know what they are yet. You can't do that. So Woe should be in the mix, and honestly in the mix. And Eric brings up Posy. Maybe this is where Posy says something. If Melvin's not available, maybe you do look at Woe and say, something, he deserves a shot to do this. And Larry's right the way he described it. So I think he'd love to do it. And I don't think he'd come back to be a bench coach, but I think he would come back to manage if they asked him.
I love you, brother. Thanks for joining us. We wish you nothing but good health and much success. Have a great weekend talking ball, and you're always welcome here. And I'm sure there'll be many more revelations this offseason, and I I want you to promise me you'll come back and join us when those revelations are revealed. And great respect for you individually, personally, professionally. Thank you very much for jumping in, Marty.
All right, I'm not done yet. All
I'm
right.
not done.
I'm not done. All right, give me your upset in the 3-game series coming up. Anything can happen in these 3-game series. Give me one of your upsets here. What could happen here?
An upset in the baseball playoffs.
Yeah, just in the 3-game series.
Okay.
This is only 3 games. You got a pitcher or two. All of a sudden, you win a game, and you got a leg up, even if you're on the road.
All right. I'll take. Okay, so it's Philly and Arizona, Milwaukee and the Cubs, Texas.
It might be Miami.
Could be Miami. Could be Miami, Milwaukee. They got a lead over the Cubs right now.
Yeah.
I'll go with Arizona to take down Philadelphia.
Yeah, I could see it. The big thing with Arizona, they got Gallen tonight. If they win tonight, they clinch. If they don't win tonight, they got to pitch Kelly tomorrow, which means neither one would be available on that first 2 games. There'd be trouble.
Right. Which is a huge thing because Arizona's got 2 very good starters and a lot of speed and a lot of enthusiasm.
Yeah.
If they can set their rotation even a little bit and get one of their top 2 guys, I'm going to take Arizona. I think Philly feels a little pressure there.
Arizona clinching tonight is the key because then they have Kelly ready to go with Gallen.
Yeah. All 3 games will be in Philadelphia.
I'll also take Houston, by the way. Over Minnesota.
Houston would be, where would they be? Houston over Minnesota. Minnesota's my pick to get to the championship series.
Really? I'm going Texas, Tampa, Dodgers, Braves, Texas, Braves winning it all.
That's too easy. No,
I'm rooting for Boch. I'm rooting hard for Boch.
Come on, Stefan wouldn't even have that on, bottom line bets. He'd be better.
Let me change my hats here.
I'm going straight chalk.
I'm going Minnesota. Minnesota's my team. They haven't won a playoff game in 18 years. Minnesota's going to upset somebody.
Wow.
Interesting.
I have Milwaukee coming out of the National League with that pitching
Very
staff.
good pick. Milwaukee is a great.
Milwaukee's a good sleeper pick. I think.
Yeah, they got all their starting pitching back.
I can't see. Minnesota would play Houston, or possibly Toronto, but most likely Houston. I don't think Minnesota wins this series.
They're at home.
I know, but
Houston wins on the road. They can't win at home.
Yeah,
I like
Minnesota.
Houston's pretty proven, man. I don't know.
They're pretty up and down. Minnesota should go ask Kansas City.
Minnesota's got a closer. Houston has been
they
miserable.
do.
Their pitching's been miserable.
Never know.
Houston's been very inconsistent. Let them go ask Kansas City how to beat them.
This playoff is pretty cool. Anything can happen in this playoff.
Yep.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Marty, hey, go get some dinner before the game. Thank you very much for your insights. They're much appreciated.
All right, guys. Be well. I enjoyed it.
Thanks,
Take care,
Marty.
The great Marty Lurie.
Hey, Mr. Irrelevant
Awesome.
MC, I have this Rangers hat on because of Bochy. Am I a Cowboys fan? I'll tell you who I'm a fan of. There you go, baby.
Look at
Right
that.
there.
I thought Danny was going border patrol with that Rangers hat.
Yeah.
You're gonna be like Elon Musk down there at the border.
Down at the border there.
With the cowboy hat.
Hey, I haven't worn my Giants hat for weeks because of this regime.
Hey, that's the Giants hat of my youth right there.
Yeah, I love this one from the 70s.
The orange
man.
bill.
Isn't that the one that had the fork in it?
I can see Gary Lavelle right now warming up.
Yeah, Gary Lavelle and Randy Moffat in the bullpen.
Randy Moffat, who is related to
Billie Jean King.
Look at you. That's great baseball knowledge, as Gary would say. All right, that's going to do it for us. We are 3 hours and 28 minutes and 52 seconds into this live stream. Woo! One last super from FBS. He says, per Jeff Passan from ESPN, Giants have $110 million committed in 2024, $45 million in 2025. Plus, they missed on multiple $100 million free agents recently. Time to spend some money. All right, let's go once quickly around the room. Everybody gets a final thought before we bolt for the door. Los, why don't we start with you?
I thought it was very, very interesting how Marty talked about Kapler, and from the standpoint of he was given not much to work with and maybe had to go with platooning and had to go with mixing and matching. And I kind of harkened back to Bill Parcells. I kind of harkened back to Bill Parcells. Well, if you want me to cook, you got to let me shop for the groceries. Well, Farhan shopped for some pretty crappy groceries. So how is Kapler supposed to cook a good meal? And I'm not advocating Kapler. I wanted him gone. But maybe like some more pressure needs to go on Farhan for putting together this team, for committing to the journeyman players that he did, for stopping and blocking the youth players that he did. So I'm an advocate of being a joint dismissal, but we'll see what happens.
Eric, jump in here. Give us your final thought. Been a busy day. We've touched a lot of topics. You got a final wrap-up thought for us?
Yeah, just glad to see one of the guys gone, Kapler, who would like to see the Farhan go too, because I also, just like Lo said, I think Farhan's a big problem with the organization of how this team got put together. We called it from the very beginning, saying, hey, when you bring players in with a history of injury and they're not full-time guys, this is what you're going to get. But on the same token, Kapler was horrible at managing. Just look at some of the challenges that he did. He's in in Atlanta, wanting a replay about Acuna touching third base. You got the debacle in LA when the ball hits the glove of Flores at first base, has no idea what's going on the field. It was time for him to go. He just didn't have what it needed. He didn't have the leadership skills to be not only strategizing within a game, but also commanding the clubhouse. I mean, there's comments coming out saying that he had no part in what was going on in that clubhouse. So it's nice to see him go, and hopefully, the Giants do right and get a manager that knows how to lead a team and, does well for the Giants.
Danny, final thought. You and Marty, I thought you guys were going to drop the gloves and start throwing hands there.
Marty and I get along great. No, I just disagreed with him, and that's what sports is all about.
I haven't seen anybody be that physical since Kapler and Correa.
I thought it was going to be Robert De Niro and Stallone going at it.
Yeah. Hey, I have such passion on this whole thing. I've been working all summer to get rid of Kapler and Farhan. One down, one to go. Here's my take on this whole thing. With okay, they've done the right thing. They got rid of Kapler. Time to move on. I'm not even thinking about next manager. My next move is get Farhan out of here. A tiger doesn't change his stripes. A leopard doesn't change his spots. This guy has got Billy Bean baseball, Moneyball all over him. He's not going to change, okay? He's not going to suddenly become all of a sudden, Dave Dombrowski, and he's going to just hand the things over to Rob Thompson and say, Rob, you manage the team. I'm just going to sit back and do trades. You haven't made any trades. You didn't make any trades at this year's deadline when you said you were going to be totally active. So why am I going to trust you to run this one more time? You hired Gabe Kapler, and you went out on a limb to hire a guy who was fired by the Phillies, by the owner of the Phillies, intentionally flew out, took his plane to fly out and personally deliver the message to Kapler because he says it couldn't go on a day longer. And then you bring him right in, and you had Ron Wotus in-house at that time. And I'm not trusting Farhan to make the managerial choice, period, if he's back. So to me, if you're not going to trust him to make the managerial choice, and who's going to want to come if Farhan's the manager and know that he may be out? You're not getting a good manager on a 3-year deal, because if you fire Farhan a year from now, that GM, whoever comes in, may want his own guy. Mm-hmm. And so the time to clean house is now. Don't wait. Get Farhan moved to a back office position where he does his Billy Bean baseball crap, his money ball, and he helps the organization that way. But don't make him the front of the franchise, because he was the laughingstock of the winter meetings. He got nothing done. I don't know why in the hell you would bring this guy back. Nice guy, does a great job. He's smart as hell. Leave him in the back office where he can actually help and do stuff. But don't let this guy be the president of baseball operations one more day. Please. If they bring him back, it's just more of the circus club. It really is, because he is who he is. Denny Green said it. The Bears are who we thought they were. Let me tell you, Farhan is who we thought he is. I know he's not going to change. Please don't bring him back.
Danny, great. First of all, I love the passion. This has been an epic show. To me, anybody can do a regular old-fashioned show. It's how do you respond when you have no time to prepare, right?
Yeah, right.
And what kind of show do you put on when you didn't know you were even going to do a show? And I'm really, really proud of our collective efforts today, entertaining Giants fans. We've retained, roughly 500 to 700 people throughout this show, all the way through on this channel. On Damon's channel, probably a couple hundred more as well. Damon's audience still hanging with us, going, "What is going on?" But I will say this: I think Danny's going to get his wish. I don't think that Farhan's going to be allowed to run the show. I don't.
Please.
I really don't.
If you heard his press conference today, he sounded pretty nervous.
Did he?
Yeah, he sounded pretty nervous.
He did.
He should be, because you know what? He jacked this whole club around. I mean, he left people. I mean, what they did to Bochy, I mean, that was disgusting. Okay. I mean, moving him out. And the fact that this guy said, this year, we are a playoff team. We are a World Series contender. And if this is the guy you're going to trust, if he has that type of mindset, why would you trust him?
No.
It just makes no sense. And I'll also just say this to people who are just listening to us, Eric, myself, and Los. Please subscribe to our channel.
I was about to hit that. Let me do that for you. I just wanted to say, Danny and Eric and Los have been doing yeoman's duty. When I was bored senseless on Giants baseball, they picked up the baton and carried it all summer and did an incredible job. And all of you owe these guys a debt of gratitude, because when the Giants were losing 17-2 or something like that, and everybody else was doing something else, these guys found a way to come on and talk Giants baseball and entertain a lot of people. So I'd love it if every single person in the chat goes over to NorCal Sports Network and hits like and subscribe over there. Help Danny build his channel. He's doing great work. These guys do great work. I'm going to put one more chat up here, and it's from Eric L., and I'm going to leave you guys with this thought. He said, something is up with Ned Colletti. He could have shot Larry's question down. He did not want to talk about it. I will make my prediction. Buster Posey's your president. Ned Colletti's your general manager. Farhan, if he remains, is a think tank behind the scenes 1 year as he freshens up his resume to go somewhere else. And Ron Wotus is the Giants manager.
Oh, that would be awesome.
I'll predict. If I'm right, I'm right. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I think that makes sense on so many levels. I think Buster improves the PR with the fans. I think Ned improves the PR with the agents. Mm-hmm. And I think and the buck stops with those guys. And then Wotus brings back the work ethic and the he connects with the players. And I think that's the direction they go. We will see. We will all be here for every step of the way. The one thing I think we've all demonstrated today is that all of us collectively still have tremendous passion for the Giants. Despite what Gabe Kapler and Farhan Zaidi tried to do, they cannot kill the passion of real Giants fans.
Amen.
We are bigger than them. We are better than them. They are going to be gone. We are going to remain. And Jim Molet, who's my fraternity brother from Sacramento State, says, I'm hearing a rumor Farhan is gone too.
Yes, please. And Larry, let me add this to, if you're right, I'll tell you what's going to happen. I know for one, I'm going to renew my season tickets. I canceled, but I'm one of thousands. If they put Buster and Ned and Ron Wotus as the three-headed monster of this organization, as the forefront of this organization, you will turn this clown show into a first-class organization like that.
Yep, absolutely. Gentlemen, I'm going to play a couple spots and have a final thought, but I'll let you guys get out of here. Have a great Friday night. Go Giants. Enjoy Giants-Dodgers tonight.
Yeah, we'll be on, and you're welcome to come on, Larry, after the game if you want to come on and wrap.
I might take you up on that. Send me an invite. We'll be watching the game tonight for sure. Giants fans, stay the course. This was a great effing day for the San Francisco Giants.
Well put. Yes. NorCal Sports Network will be on tonight after the Giants-Dodgers game. NorCal Sports Network. The logo on YouTube is the California flag.
There you go. Everybody hit a like and subscribe over there. Eric, thanks for your time, man.
You betcha. Thanks for the invite. I appreciate it.
Yep.
All right.
There you go. Los, thanks for your time, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for the kind words and the invite.
Absolutely. Meant every minute of it. Meant every word of it, I should say. And Danny, keep rocking and rolling, brother. You're doing a great job. And if I can't join you tonight, don't take it personally, but we'll do stuff soon.
No worries.
And
we'll be on.
We'll talk soon.
Awesome, Larry. Thanks again. Great job.
Thanks. There you go. All right, guys. There you go. 3 hours and 40 minutes in on a show that we really didn't know that we were going to do. I got a text from my son, Kevin, this afternoon saying, Dad, you're never going to believe this. I said, what? He said, the Giants just fired Gabe Kapler. I said, I'm doing a video. I'm going to go right now. I did a video. Go check it out. It was a little emotional, but there you go. We also have this one from Sparks Northern. He says, God bless you, Larry. Keep doing what you're doing. We are Giant. Yeah. Erwin Kwong says, thanks for the great show, Larry. G. Martinez says, Kev broke the news? LOL. He broke it to me. All right. Hey, thanks to everybody. Really great stuff today. Thanks to Ned Colletti. Thanks to Danny. Thanks to Los. Thanks to Eric. Thanks to Damon Bruce, who joined us. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to the Super Chats. And let me thank the sponsors one more time. Bottom of the screen, you see the scroll, MarinAutoglass.com. You shatter a windshield, you need a new one. Go MarinAutoglass.com, 415-883-3030. Of course, we are also brought to you by New York-style Italian sausage up here in the top corner. The only kind of Italian sausage I will eat is New York-style Italian sausage. And let's get a word from them before we get out of here.
So New York-style sausage was started over 70 years ago. We are the largest producer of fresh Italian sausage on the West Coast.
What makes our sausage New York style is really the recipe came from back east, from New York, from Connecticut.
If you look at all of our labels, there's maximum 4 or 5 ingredients, which we're really proud of.
There's no preservatives, no MSG, fresh in, fresh out.
The pork comes in fresh, goes out fresh. There's never any freezing throughout the process. We've always used fine quality cuts. We're never going to deter from that. It's one of the reasons why our sausage is so good. I guarantee you put our sausage up against anybody else's from a flavor standpoint, no one will beat it, hands down.
And do yourself a favor and do me a favor. Go buy a package of the New York style Italian sausage. Guaranteed you will love it. Guaranteed.
Thanks to our friends over at Jurin's Distributing Company for partnering with The Krug Show. If you're looking for top quality cocktail mixes, garnishes, and kitchen essentials with the absolute lowest prices, Jurins.com is the place to go. Jurins has been a trusted name in the industry. They've been serving Sacramento's finest restaurants, bars, and casinos for over 50 years and now can serve you as well. Check out Jurins' website at Jurins.com. Use the promo code KRUG, K-R-U-E-G, at checkout. And of course, the title sponsor of the Krug Show is Pig in a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. 2 locations, Emeryville and Corte Madera. Check them out. They're open from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. or until they run out. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Get the brisket chili if you're in Marin. The potato chips cooked in beef fat, amazing. Let's hear a word quickly, or a little video from our good friends at Pig in a Pickle. All right, about ready to bolt for the door. Really unique live stream today. Was not planning any of it. Tried to make it all happen by sending texts to Ned and Marty and Damon on my phone. But really proud of the effort we put forward today. We are sitting at 24,222 subs. We've had over 1 million, almost 1,000,003. 1.3 million views of our content in the last 28 days alone. We've had over 180,000 watch hours of YouTube content in the last 4 weeks alone, and we've picked up 2,000 new subscribers in the last 4 weeks alone. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., the coach joins me to look ahead to Niners Cardinals. Sunday morning at 11 a.m., join me from the Santa Clara Hilton with the great Lo Neal on 95.7 The Game. I'll be doing 49er pregame on the radio, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. from the Santa Clara Hilton with Lo Neal, talk on a lot of Niners Cardinals, and then join me in the postgame with Kev Kruger, JD, Damon, and others, maybe Danny, maybe Rye. We'll do a lot of post game after the Niners hopefully knock off the Arizona Cardinals. Thanks to all you guys for supporting this channel so faithfully since we launched it in March of 2022. We're sitting here now on approaching 25,000 subs, and I just want to thank each and every one of you. Have a great Friday night. Go Giants. Gabe Kapler fired.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you bring me, get in hand.